Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And today we are live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena because the Predators are in action, and it is a big ol' ball game tonight, hosting the St. Louis Blues. And no, it's not. Gotta have it, have to have it to make the playoffs, but it does kind of feel that way. So we will get into all things Predators and preview that game tonight. Elliot Friedman will join the show at 1 p.m. And we get Willy for the full show today.
Yes. We was making fun of Willy today, he and Chris, even though Chris is not here. Y'all got benched, man.
Yeah.
The upperclassmen came in and, they came in the dorm and they took your bedroom. They made y'all move to the much smaller room with no bathroom.
The hot guy stole your girl.
Yep. Been there before.
Don't worry, Willy. I told you. I know where their lockers at. I'm going to put some itching powder in their pants, man.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, John, if you see John Butchergross running down section 310
exactly.
like they did in Revenge of the Nerds when they put the hot stuff in there, that's John Goodman said, hey, we forgot to practice.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Preds in action tonight.
ESPN Plus
ESPN
tonight.
game.
Yeah.
ESPN game tonight, and it is a big one. It's a big one. But I do want to start here because it is Willy's favorite season. It is NFL mock draft season. And a couple of days ago when we were back here at Bridgestone Arena on Tuesday, D-Mase and I were almost laughing about how every single mock draft that I had looked at, 5 different mock drafts from different NFL draft insiders, from ESPN and The Athletic and NFL.com, every single one had Joe Alt to the Titans. And I thought that very much so could be the case. But also, it's never, ever that simple. A couple of new mock drafts came out. There's one mock draft from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, and Field Yates of ESPN released his new mock draft yesterday. I'm going to give both of you one guess as to who both of those mock drafts have the Titans taking.
Oh, man. God, this is hard.
Kid out of Michigan State, Derek Mason.
Derek Mason.
Exactly.
Thrown back in the draft pool.
And I'm going in the first round this time.
Yep. I mean, they heard about the AFL, the Arena League tryout with the Cats. They're like, wait a minute, let's move them up on the board.
Hey, I'm here. We're
not giving them to the Cats. We're taking them. We're taking them back.
I love it.
We also, a side note, had several angry texters into the text line like, I just bought all my new Nashville Cats gear because I was so excited about seeing Derek Mason.
Y'all had to know it was the first day of April, so it's an April Fool's Day joke, people. I'm sorry if I disappointed you. I really am. But no, one Joe Alt.
One Joe Alt.
What a surprise.
Great guess. Great guess. Out of nowhere. Truly.
Yes, out of nowhere. I just
a shock to us all. Both Field Yates in his most recent mock draft and Bruce Feldman in his most recent mock draft have the Tennessee Titans selecting Joe Alt at 7th overall. And it's interesting because looking at all of these mock drafts, the path to Joe Alt falling to the Titans is different in several of them. A lot of them have the Vikings trading up to 4 with the Arizona Cardinals and the Vikings selecting J.J. McCarthy, or it's the receivers falling, or it's maybe a defensive player going earlier than any of us anticipated. But all signs point to, all roads lead to, Joe Alt being a Tennessee Titan. But the interesting thing that I wanted to really break down here with Field Yates' mock draft is what he has the Titans doing in the second round. With the 33rd overall pick, Field Yates has the Tennessee Titans trading up with the Carolina Panthers to draft Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Missouri. Now, we heard from TD earlier this week about Darius Robinson, and we can get into exactly what that pick would be, what that pick would represent. But first, wanted to get your thoughts overall on just the Titans trading up into the second round. And Field Yates' mock draft, the compensation is a 4th round this year and next year in order to move up from 38 to 33. What do we think of it?
I don't like it. I don't like moving up. They need picks. They need to acquire picks. And I'm always skeptical. Look, I know these guys work really hard on these mock drafts. But when you're speculating trades in a mock draft,
compensation.
And the compensation, that's too much for me. Like I'm not interested. We always make fun of the person like, okay, I'm sitting in my room, I'm working on my mock draft. I've got the 6th round. It's pick number 176. Who am I going with here? Like, the amount of time and energy put into that is great. I commend them for doing that. I'm just not paying attention. And so these drafts, when you are sitting there and the clock is going, especially in the second round, right? You don't have that much time.
No.
That could be something that's spur of the moment. So to predict that, come on. I just – but in principle, I would say they don't need to be giving up picks. Even though you're saying, oh, it's a fifth round. They need those picks. They need to bolster the depth. They need a lot of players. The only way you can bolster and build a deep roster, you got to have picks.
Yeah, they have the 38th pick in the second round, and Phil Yates is suggesting that they may move up or could move up to the 33rd.
33rd, yeah, correct.
33rd.
So the first overall pick in the second round.
And get an edge rush. I'm not going to, poo-poo the actual, pick, meaning the player or the position. But like Willy, you're moving up 5 spaces to get him. I think that would be a little bit too much.
And what's wrong with the guy at 38? Don't you think, is he that much better?
If you feel that if this is your guy that you earmarked and you want to get him in the second round, and you feel you have to move up to get him, then he better turn out and be he better turn out to be Derrick Henry. Essentially, that's what he better turn out to be.
A guy
because you're a guy that's going to give you high production once he cracks the starting lineup.
A.J. Brown.
Or
in
an
the
A.J.
second round.
Brown
Yeah.
in the second round.
Or Justin Hunter, who they did trade up to get in the second round.
He was a total bust.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you better make sure that this guy is worth you moving up in the draft and giving up picks. Somewhere else, whether it be in this year's draft or next year's draft, because essentially, I think this guy, if this is a guy that the Titans are earmarking, he may just fall to you. I wouldn't spend the first day or the last hours of the first day trying to put together a trade just to move up 5 spots. Now, if somebody is willing to move down, then I may think about it. But I'm not moving up to get it. I'm not actively calling teams to move up. Now, if a team called me and they want to move back, swap spots, okay, let's do it. Depending on what you want to give up, because you called me, I ain't called you. So it depends on what you want to give up. But I'm trying to build my team. I've done from where we look at it now, or how we look at it now, they've done a good job in free agency. It hadn't been it's been a good, solid job in free agency. I don't want to then give up picks. I need to build my team. I'm trying to build this team, so I don't want to give up any picks. Even giving up a 4th or 5th rounder in next year's draft, to me, is too much, because you're trying to build a team, and you're giving it up, to move up 5 spots to get a guy that may be there at 38 anyway?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I'm not saying that the position is wrong to get, because I think they need an edge rusher.
They need an edge rusher.
But to try to move up, if you move up, he better be an A.J. Brown, a Derrick Henry, guys like that you draft, that you moved up in the second round to get.
Second rounders that give you first round contributions.
Exactly, absolutely. Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're moving up.
And let's be
To
honest,
get him.
33 is basically the first round.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And you could also make the argument that 20 through 32 is basically the second round, but it's all, you're splitting hairs there. I think the Titans trading up in the second round last year to take Will Levis is a different story.
Yes.
That you view quarterback just differently. So that I completely understood. Whenever we talk about moving up, first round, second round, third round, whatever it is, I have to ask a couple of questions. One, do you have to have him? You have to have him. And you don't want to get him at 7 because he's not a top 10 player in this year's draft. But you look at him and you say, that guy's going to change the defense. We need him. Well, if we're going to go by Field Yates's mock draft on ESPN.com, well, do the Titans have to have Darius Robinson, and do they have to trade up to 33 to get him?
As
TD
opposed to
actually-
what? That's the other thing. They have so many needs.
Well, and that's the other question is, well, what's the alternative?
Right.
Who would be there at 38? Could he be
Who
there
does he have at 38?
38?
Just for argument's sake, these are the things that I don't know how his mind works. He's really good.
Yeah,
Field
Field's
Yates
great. Yeah.
knows his stuff, but I just again to try to put the puzzle together for 32 teams.
That's
it's
tough.
it's his job, but there's no way he can know that. It's pure speculation, but it does give you food for thought. I think you can get a guy at 38 with all the needs that they have, still fill a need, because I think with first and second picks, there's probably you have the two circles, whatever you call that in class, where they say
The
the
diagram?
big sort of the diagram, and where the two circles intersect is really what you want, and that is need and the best player available. You would like to think that with the 7th overall pick and then the 38th, you can hit two needs with players that on your board fit that. You're not reaching for either one. It's in the sweet spot.
Yeah,
so
it
you
is.
don't need to trade up to get one of those guys at 38. I wouldn't think, because you have so many needs.
Yeah.
It's not like the only thing we need is X, Y, Z. Then maybe you think about making a trade
Because
like
he
that.
may be that guy that you're looking
Yeah.
for. I can see them possibly moving down to acquire more picks as the draft.
Yeah,
as
I'm
the
more
draft is
more
going,
interested in that.
And they see how the draft is falling. I can see the Titans then moving back a couple of spots, trying to recoup a pick somewhere around there. But I mean, listen, 1 through 10, 1 through 5 is hard to pick. How are you picking 33 and 38? 1 through 5 is hard to pick in the mock draft. How then do you pick 33, in the second draft?
Yeah.
And I get it. He's trying to piece this puzzle together and the needs of teams, where players are positioned, where they're ranked as far as the totality of the draft, not just their position. So I understand, sort of the formula, how he's putting all this stuff together, but I can't, to say they're moving up to get this defensive end. I think they need a defensive end, yes, but to move up to get him,
Well, and it's a total inexact science,
Exactly.
but the mock draft, that's all we got right now. And so
Absolutely.
I'm looking
So I
at it
get
through
it.
the scope of
Yeah.
if this was reality, if this is how the draft played out, would we like it? Would we agree with it? Would we disagree with it? And when it comes to moving up, the first question has to be, do you need him? Is it really like this is
Yeah.
our guy and we will do whatever it takes to get him? And the other question is, well, who would be available if we just stayed put? And looking at Field Yates' mock draft, he has Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver out of Florida, going at 38. I wouldn't mind the Titans taking Ricky Pearsall or Keon Coleman, who Field Yates has going at 40 to the Washington Commanders, or Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker out of Texas A&M, who Field Yates has going at 41, or even Kool-Aid McKinstry, the corner out of Alabama, who Field has going at 43 to Atlanta. Patrick Paul, the offensive tackle out of Houston, who Field has going 44 to Washington. How many freaking second-round picks does Washington have? I mean, my goodness. But, I mean, that
they
just...
got Xavier Legette still on the board.
Xavier Legette, Field had going
34,
at 34.
right after,
So
yeah.
that would have been right before the Titans would pick at 38. But, I mean, Kool-Aid is on the board. Lad McConkey, the wide receiver out of Georgia, is on the board. Like, several players.
Is he that high of a pick, second round, McConkey? Is he projected that high?
I think he's projected mid-second round to early third.
Interesting.
A day two pick.
I have not studied up on some of these guys. That's just one that pops out to me as a guy I've watched a lot. He doesn't strike me as a second rounder, but he's an excellent football player. I just didn't know if he would grade out that high.
Yeah.
In my mind, more of a mid-round pick. I guess for me, I would ask the question in general. Now that you've made the big investment in Ridley, you're keeping DeAndre Hopkins. You still have Treylon Burks. Are you still reaching for now? If it's the best person on your board, regardless of if that happens to be a wide receiver, then I can see that. But I'm not looking necessarily for a wide receiver at 38. If again, we're assuming they take Alt with number 7, which is not a sure thing for sure. They've got to get the tackle.
But we're not the only ones
That's the
assuming
one
that.
enormous need
Yeah, exactly.
that they've got to have that they obviously have not addressed. So it would just lead you to believe that that's what they're thinking. But for the second pick, I don't know if I'm looking around for a receiver unless that guy is the best player on my board.
He's the
Do
best
you agree?
player
I mean,
or
like,
the best receiver
Yeah.
on the
Best
board?
player on the board.
Yeah, because they don't.
Best
that's not-
receiver on the
because it's
board,
not
I think, is a
dire
different
need.
question
It's not
because
a dire
they just
need.
invested $50 million
Exactly.
in Ridley. They still have DeAndre Hopkins. I still think you're looking at you want to have some space for Burks to try to go win a spot somewhere in the mix, or unless you're just completely moving on from him.
And I don't think they are.
I wouldn't be like on the hunt. Like, hey, how can we get the wide receiver? I think it's a little more of who's falling to that spot. Is it and who's the best player on the board? The edge rusher would be ideal.
I think right now.
I'd love to get that next edge rusher that can throw a little youth into that group.
Well,
you know?
I would
they-
agree.
they-
If the Titans went tackle and edge rusher 1-2,
I'd have no problem with
zero
that. Yeah.
complaints whatsoever.
Well, they got to get help for not necessarily Jeffrey Simmons, but they got to get somebody on the other side of Harold Landry. They have to. It's going to be critical for Harold Landry, and I think it's going to be critical for that defense. So I think two positions that were, I'm not going to say dire need because tackle is a dire need, but the other two positions that was of need was wide receiver and cornerback. And you can basically X those two positions out, at least the first 2 to 3 rounds. They don't have a third round pick as of now, so it really doesn't matter. But I think, at least the first round, the second round, and maybe even the fourth round, you have put yourself in a position where you don't have to go searching for a wide receiver or a defensive back because you have 3 defensive back that I think they feel comfortable with. McQuarrie is the nickel, meaning McQuarrie is the nickel back.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel comfortable with the 3 corners they got before going to get Snead and
Chidobe Uzi.
Awuzie. Now they have their corners. They went out and they made some other moves. They got Ridley at wide receiver. So before free agency, those were big needs. Now they're not big needs. Now what is a big need for them is the defensive end, is an inside backer, and potentially a safety. Now they can address the safety position after the draft with a veteran safety, which they may do anyway. But defensive end has jumped receiver and cornerback. Why? Because they've already addressed it through free agency. So to me, if that defensive end is there, do I move up to get him? He better be the best player on the board. I mean, period, regardless of what positions. If he's the best player on the board, regardless of positions, then yes, I can see them moving up. But if he's not, I see them staying put and still drafting that defensive end.
And look, I would be against trading up in the second round to take anyone, period, unless they view this player that they would trade up to draft. And of course, in Field Yates' mock draft, that player that they have taking at 33 overall in a mock trade is Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Missouri, who is a heck of a player.
Yeah.
If the Titans view him as more impactful than any player that could be there at 38 and also more impactful than any player that they could find in the 4th round. If they can justify that and say, we believe that this guy is going to be better than anyone that we could get at 38 or in the 4th, then I can live with it. But when you have such limited picks, I'm against giving up any more. I'm against putting even more eggs in a singular basket when you have so many needs. And then that brings up the philosophical question of drafting for need versus drafting the best player available. At 7, I'm in the business for the best player available. If that's receiver, if that's tackle, whatever it is, take the best player on the board. But since the Titans do have so many needs and they do have so few picks, at some point you have to start prioritizing need. Is that in the 2nd round? Is that in the 4th round? I don't know when that comes for them. But if they have, let's say, hypothetically speaking, I'll take Kool-Aid McKinstry. If Kool-Aid McKinstry, when they're picking at 38, is the best player available, but you have a Darius Robinson at Missouri that's on the board, but you have him a couple slots below Kool-Aid McKinstry, take Darius Robinson because he's more of a need than Kool-Aid, who plays a position that you already addressed in free agency. Could you add more cornerback depth? Yeah, absolutely. But right now, I think edge rusher is a much more dire need than corner. So it's balancing the two, both need and best player available.
Yeah, because you can always and listen, they're going to need more cornerbacks. That's just the way it is. We saw this team when everybody started dropping like flies. It wasn't a good picture because they didn't have the depth. Now they can go out and get another corner via free agency and through the draft. So just because, to me, if you're sitting there, if you don't move up, say you stay at 38, and the best player is available for you, and he is a player of need.
Perfect.
I don't mind that.
Jackpot.
I really don't. Or even if he's like, if you have, three guys up there, and he may be the second of the three. If you want to get him because obviously he feels a need for you that you want to plug, whether it be a starter or depth, and you feel he's a good player. So you take him. You take him if he's the second player. You take him if he's the first. If he's the first player on the board in regards to your needs and best player available. To me, just get somebody in here that's going to help this team win ball games. If it's a player of need, great. If it's not a player of need, then okay, find a place for him. But if you're going to do that, you better get that tackle in the first round, because if you don't get that tackle in the first round, you start doing that outside the first round. I'm not sure if Titans fans are going to like that, because they look at it as, well, you didn't address the tackle position in the first round, and now you're getting somebody that's outside of a need just because he's the best player available.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, this is Field Yates' mock draft. He has the Titans trading up from 38 to 33. I'm against that, frankly.
Yeah.
You don't have enough picks. I'm not in the business of
Get
giving
Field
up
on the
any more
horn.
picks.
Tell him we're out.
Field,
We're out.
Field, you're fired.
No,
Yes.
you're fired.
Field, you're fired. Coming up next, though, there's another mock draft that just came out this morning from Bruce Feldman in The Athletics.
Yates out, Feldman in. What do you got, Feldman? What do you got for me?
Welcome back in. He also has the Titans taking Joe Alt at 7. Surprise, surprise. I love that he's doing something different and shaking things up. But he does have the Titans taking Joe Alt over who is perceived to be one of the top 3, top 5 players in this year's draft. Could we live with that? We'll get into that coming up next. We'll get into our thoughts as well. Your reaction to Field Yates' mock draft, taking the Titans taking Joe Alt with the 7th overall pick and trading up in the second round. Are you for trading up? Are you against trading up? We'll get into our thoughts on that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. Imagine waking up this time next week and you are debt-free. You have killed off that credit card bill that's been growing like a weed, and you're like, how do I get this back and rein it in? This is how you do it. Your home's value is way up. If you live in our listening area, you see all the cranes, all of the growth in our city. That means your house has value. You can tap into that value with your home's equity, and then boom, you kill the credit card bill. You kill the car loan. Your car is paid for. And you work off of that. You're in a better position financially with a better interest rate. So call right now to Loan Pronto and find out about their Express Equity line of credit. They can make it happen, and they can make it happen fast. It's no longer the way it was years ago when you had to get all this paperwork out. You had to get the appraiser to come in. You had to set an appointment. It took a long, long time. Now, boom, it's an AI-based system. You get approval in about 10 minutes, almost no documentation, no appraisal, no hassle in most cases. And so it's just minutes away with the approval, and then the process gets started, and it's all digital. Call now and find out more. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, equal housing lender.
Look, they came in guns blazing, talking about explosiveness and touchdowns. And NPF is not explosive. Say the words. Repeat those words. NPF is sorry.
NWI?
NWI is not explosive. Say it.
Well, I want you to know what position
I
you're
got
talking
it.
about first. You
Nick
got
Westbrook
that? Okay.
Akine is not explosive. Repeat those words.
I never said he was.
Well, let's say it. Let's get it on the record.
I'm
You're
not-
saying he's
no,
not
I'm
explosive.
not Bart Simpson, the chalkboard for you. I'm not your little puppet.
Is he explosive?
No.
Get
I never
that.
said he was.
Mark that on tape, Nick.
9-minute
Mark that
run.
on tape.
9-minute run.
He's
Says
not
Kaharski.
explosive. So, no, he's not what they're looking for.
Listen, all
It's
I
a huge
said.
come down if he's the third receiver.
Right, I'm just saying.
And he's
that-
the third receiver because Burks is going to get hurt. And Phillips is going to get hurt. And those guys are gravy. If they look, I know
They should get another receiver.
Okay, well, we're moving away. Everybody's moving away from receiver because they signed Ridley, and they're like,
What?
okay, they cannot get a receiver now in the top two. They still need a receiver. And, I mean, if Neighbors is there at 7, they should run like hell to get Neighbors and screw left tackle for a little while. Then go tackle at 38.
That was Paul Kaharski on Robbie and Rex Road yesterday morning. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Predators taking on the St. Louis Blues tonight. Paul says, screw the left tackle. Take the receiver. If Malik Neighbors is there at 7, you run to take the receiver. That was my best Paul Kuharski impression. It needs work. I'm working on it.
Yeah, you got time. You
I got
time.
yeah. We got plenty of time here. So Paul, I apologize, but just
Who was he saying
gonna
is
see
not
that
explosive?
NWI.
Nick Westbrook Akine.
He's not
And, I
explosive.
mean, Nick Westbrook isn't what you would
Who was
consider
no? Surely nobody was
as
arguing that he was
as
explosive.
But I think what Joe was getting at is that because they went out and got Ridley, now he may been suggesting something else, but I think because the text line and it not the fans are looking at it as it's not a big need now because you've already addressed it. Before you addressed it with Ridley, it was 1B next to your tackle.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted to flip it, however you wanted to do it. But since they went and got Ridley, and they signed Nick Westbrook Akine back, depth pieces, and he is listen. Don't disrespect the man. The he's a damn good player. Okay.
NWI.
NWI.
He is what he is.
He's a damn good player. He's been able to survive all these changes that they've made. Whether he's the 3, the 4, the 5, not playing special teams. But all he does is put his head down, go to work, and to bail the damn Titans out every time he gets an opportunity to, he bails them out. Whether it be on a third down, a crucial touchdown, he finds a way to bail them out. That's why they keep him on the roster. He's a good player. But he's not what you think of as explosive. He's a solid player that can get you the catches when ain't nobody paying attention. And then when they are, he can still make those tough catches. But when you're looking at the receiver position, and I'm going to say this because you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like when you don't have a left tackle for 10, 15, 20 years. We've had the luxury of having a left tackle since I've known it, other than the last 2 years. Whether it was Hoppy, whether it was Roos, whether it was Taylor, and you can throw other guys in there. The Titans have had a left tackle, so they hadn't had to worry about it. They've had to worry about the last 2 seasons. And to suggest that if Neighbors and Alt is there, you take Neighbors, you're a damn fool. I'm not saying Paul's a damn fool, but I'm saying you because that is an extension of your quarterback, that left tackle. You need to get him and protect him because you say, well, we can get a left tackle in the second round. Go try to find him in the second round. Pass up on Alt if you want to. And try to go get your left tackle in the second round. And if it don't work out, your ass going to have another job. And everybody's going to be around here. Well, they should have drafted the left tackle in the first round. Yes, and they should. If Alt's there, they need to draft him because that is a position that every team in the National Football League outside the quarterback, if every team can have a left tackle for the next 10 or 15 years, everybody would be happy. It would be a happy world. That's why left tackles, when you find them, that's why they don't hit the market until they're like in year 12 or 13. Or if they do hit the market, it's because the guy's been injured. He hadn't been able to play a lot. But if you got you a player at left tackle, He's retiring with the team that drafted him. That's just like a quarterback. So, people, get over this, and I know how the league is. Everybody's gearing toward wide receivers, and that's great. I get it, because you have some fabulous wide receivers out there. But make no mistake, if you don't have your left tackle, your quarterback going to be on his ass every other play. Ask Joe Burrow. Ask him. I know they made it to the Super Bowl, but what happened? Tell me what happened that last play. Everybody tell me what happened that last play. And they had Chase. They had T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, the tight end, Mixon. They had all these great weapons. What happened?
Well, and he still got hurt this past season.
And he still got sacked, didn't he?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because the offensive line was trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trash. Get you a left tackle and don't worry about that receiver. You can find a receiver in the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth round. But I don't know if you're going to find a tackle outside that first round.
What is Paul's
left tackle.
plan?
And
for
I'm
the
not
left
saying
tackle?
that, it is what it is. And I get it. Neighbors is just like, or Harrison is like, if he fought, we got to. Okay. But what happens if you don't solidify that left side?
That's the
You ain't going to be
question.
getting the ball to those guys. Your quarterback's going to be hurt more times than he's going to be out there on the field. These are just real facts. This is not something that I'm making up because you didn't have a left tackle the last 2 years, and what has happened? Your quarterbacks, not one, but plural, have gotten hurt because your offensive line has been horrible. Mm-hmm. So adjust the tackle position and come back with the wide receiver position. I wouldn't touch a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds this year. I wouldn't. I got my group of wide receivers. I wouldn't touch them. I'll wait till next year. Or I'll wait till the 5th or 6th round to get me a wide receiver. But I wouldn't touch one in the first round. I get Oat. If Oat is there, now if Oat's not there, then okay. But if Oat is there and there's a consensus. Oat is a plug and play. He's a guy you're not going to have to worry about for the next 12 years. I could see if I was the only person saying this. Mm-hmm. But it seems like every person out there that has watched him say what? That he's a plug and play.
He's great.
Just throw him in there. He'll be fine.
I believe it was TD that said there's no other more pro-ready prospect in this draft than Joe Alt.
Okay, if there's no other guy out there that is more pro-ready than him, why would you go outside that? Why would you not take him if he's there?
I think I think Paul's point was.
What's his plan for the tackle?
He said take tackle in the second round. I think
why you can't say take a receiver in the second round?
If you believe that Malik Neighbors is going to be a difference maker. And I think Paul's perspective is it's not just a grocery list where you have one thing on the list and once you get that thing, you cross it off. Because, yes, the Titans addressed wide receiver and free agency, but it's Calvin Ridley and it's DeAndre Hopkins and then it's a bunch of role players. And as much as we love Nick Westbrook-Akine and as much as he has a cult following among Titans fans and Joe Rexrode is the captain of the NWI cheerleading squad, he is what he is, and he's not explosive, and he's not going to be that go-to guy, as reliable as he has been for you. So if you have the opportunity to get faster and to get more explosive, which is what Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon have talked about doing, being faster, stretching the field, being more explosive, adding more to the passing game, and if you think Malik Neighbors can be that difference maker, then you do that. And I understand that perspective.
I get that if Alt is not on the board. If Alt is not there, I understand you pivoting to Neighbors or Dunze
or trade down.
Yeah, I understand it from that point. But if he's there, why are we even – I know why we are, but we've been screaming about a left tackle for 2 years. 2 years we've been screaming and yelling, they need to get a left tackle. They need to get a left tackle. They drafted a guard. They should have drafted a left tackle. And now everybody said, well, Neighbors there, take him.
To be fair, we've also been barking about the Titans getting a receiver, too.
Well, no.
But they've addressed it, though.
They've tried to address
it.
Yeah, they've tried to address receiver from Corey Davis to A.J. Brown to
who are no longer
Burke to Hop. And now Calvin
Ridley. Well, I mean, in the current moment,
they've addressed
Hopkins
the wide
and Ridley
receiver.
have addressed that position for better or worse. I mean, it's been addressed.
Now I know it's not a long-term fix in regards to D-Hop. I know that, but you will get 2 good, solid seasons out of D-Hop, maybe more if you choose to sign him back after this year, and then you're banking on Calvin Ridley to sort of extend it. You're getting 2 from D-Hop, then you're getting possibly 3 to 4 from Calvin Ridley, and you're hoping that Traylon Burks. But if he doesn't come on the way you think, he's just a good player, then you can draft a wide receiver next year. And it coincides with Calvin Ridley. Now this young wide receiver can play with a veteran guy.
And it is easy to say, take a left tackle next year, take a receiver next year. You don't know what next year's draft is really going to look like. Like, it's not every single day that you'll get a game changer at either of those positions that comes out every single year. But I think my conclusion here is right now, today, on April 4th, and on draft day most likely, if both of those players are available to you, which there's a likelihood that there will be, I don't know if I can say that there's a wrong choice.
I'm not saying that there's...
Now, 3 years from now...
You would know if
you'll
it was a
know.
right choice. I'm not saying whether it's if both guys are there. I'm not saying that, Paul's wrong with saying, if you do indeed take this receiver, if they take Neighbors, okay, you took Neighbors. But you better find a left tackle.
Yeah, and where
you better find, because the likelihood of you finding a left tackle outside of the first round ain't good. A starting impact left tackle, it ain't good.
And you're also putting this. Oh, good. Okay. Again, you have to trust your board, your scouts, what they think the difference is between the top tackle that might be out there and the next batch that you don't know how many tackles are going to get taken between 7 and 38. You might have a guy say, well, that guy probably is going to be there in 38. What if he's not there?
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, now what do we do? Like you have. Because you're putting that left tackle, presumably, because they haven't addressed it in free agency.
Now you force yourself to trade and move up.
You put that's one thing that you might have to consider. The other thing you're doing, you're putting that left tackle next to a second-year guy that you think is going to be good, but that's going to be an awfully young left side. You need the best, I think. It just makes so much sense to me in a lot of ways with what they've done in the free agency. Like maybe our answer would have been different if they didn't do the Ridley thing, and maybe they went and got a tackle in free agency. Then we might have a completely different way of looking at it. But they haven't addressed it at all. They spent a ton of money for a wide receiver. They've got to fix that. It's the number one glaring hole on the team. If you could fix it, it really could speed up your situation and put your quarterback in a much better spot. So you got to get that right. That's why I would prioritize that.
Yeah,
I just don't want to go into another season with a new coach and a young quarterback saying, "Well, let's see how it happens. Let's use the second-round pick on that."
And then the quarterback gets hurt again.
Maybe it'll work out.
Yeah.
It's just
you've got to protect him.
You're going to have to protect, because my thing is, yes, you want to see what your quarterback is, and I know the pro for getting a wide receiver could be, well, you can really see how good your quarterback is once he gets a bona fide, young stud wide receiver. You bring in a Dunze in there or Neighbors or Harrison in here and watch how he just skyrockets as a quarterback. And that may be true.
And
it may be true, but then again,
the track record of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase would be the example for that of what a receiver, an explosive receiver can do for a young quarterback.
And we're not saying, and I'm not sitting here saying that a explosive receiver will not help a young quarterback.
But an offensive line does too.
But an offensive line gives him the comfort. It's all about the comfort of the quarterback sitting in the pocket, not having to worry about anything. That receiver may make my numbers look better at the end of the day. We may have a few more touchdowns at the end of the day, but my comfort is what I'm worried about right now. I don't want to have to take a 3-step, 5-step drop and be worried about, man, I'm going to get hit on my left side. Or my offensive coordinator trying to devise a scheme to block with this front five, trying to find how do we double team. No, you go get your tackle, you ain't got to double team nobody. Put that left tackle on that edge rusher right there, the best edge rusher you got. Put that left tackle on him and leave him by himself. Now we can work the other 4. If you don't have that left tackle, now I got to work up a scheme to double team this guy. How do we do this? How do we slant down? All this other stuff, because you're trying to buy more time to get it to these explosive receivers.
I will insert my adage that I have done already several times and I will continue to do through the end of this draft, probably throughout the summer. You cannot address every need this offseason. But what are the building blocks? What is the first thing you have to have? You've got to protect your quarterback. In the coming years, especially now the way they've done it with receivers, you've got to get the offensive line fixed to help your quarterback. This is a 2-year project. It's not a 1 year. You can't fix everything. I'm not worried about the most explosive guy. I want a left tackle. You don't have one.
And I think the counter argument is
Get the best one.
the counter argument is if you can score points and you have explosive playmakers, that can cover up a lot of warts. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't really have any receiver that could hold on to the football, and they still won the Super Bowl because they have a quarterback and they have a tight end and they had a defense that could cover up all the deficiencies on the rest of the roster. And I know that we're talking about the best
And they
quarterback
had an
on the
offensive
planet.
line that didn't get a holding penalty in the playoffs.
Well, and
How that happened, I don't know, but they did.
Interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
And I know you don't have Patrick Mahomes. I know that when you have Patrick Mahomes, you can approach your roster construction a little bit differently. But I think that logic can apply, to several other teams that have a quarterback or have a passing game or can score points or have the defense that cover up other needs specifically on the roster. But you're right. Like, they have a lot of needs, a lot of which have not gone addressed, a lot that we haven't talked about. They need a safety. They need an inside linebacker. I mean, Rand Carthon talked about it. They don't have a green dot right now. So there are very much so a lot of needs. You need bodies, at least, to field a team.
Okay, so before that.
On that point, let's get into your point coming up next.
Okay.
And we'll get into some thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 the game. sideline, Willy D-Mase. We're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And today, the studio is Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Paul Kuharski was on with Robbie and Joe yesterday. He said, look, just because you got Calvin Ridley doesn't mean that you've, checked all of your boxes at the wide receiver position. Paul says if Malik Neighbors is there at 7, screw left tackle, take the wide receiver. We are reacting to that. And that I understand the thought process, but also, and I would be so excited if the Titans took a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison or a Roma Dunze, and thinking about what that passing game could be and that trio of receivers. It's exciting, but also where are you going to find your left tackle? But before the break, D-Mase, you said you had a thought.
No, I was just I was looking at the receivers in the league that were not first round draft picks because I think it's easier to find a receiver outside of the first round. And I'm not just talking about any receiver. I'm talking about impact receivers outside the first round than it is trying to find a left tackle that is going to be basically a non-problem for the next 10 to 12 years for you.
Your next Luan, your next B-Hop.
It's harder to find it outside of the top 15 picks. There may be some gems here and there that you run into, but a lot of these guys that are Hall of Famers, that are perennial All Pros, they are first round picks. They're high round picks. I looked at the receivers last year, and where did these guys get drafted? Tyreek Hill. He was outside the first round. Damn, he might have been outside the second round too.
He had the issue off the field that he easily would have been a first. I think probably a first round.
But it took him a minute to come on as a player.
Yeah.
Once he figured out the nuances of the position and how to play it, he exploded. You look at St. Brown. He was outside the first round. Puka Nacua. He was outside the first round. We know A.J. Brown was outside of the first round. DJ Moore outside of the first round. Brandon Ayuk outside of the first round.
Where was Brandon Ayuk drafted?
He was drafted in. Oh, he was drafted late in the first round.
Okay.
So he was 25th pick. So he was a first.
Cross him off the list.
So I got to cross Ayuk off the list.
You're fired.
But you're looking at those top 5 or 6 receivers from last year outside of CeeDee Lamb. All these guys were outside the first round. You can't find you an explosive, number 1 receiver outside the first round. It's harder to find a top-end, all-pro left tackle outside of the top 10 or 15.
And remember our discussion of how the game has evolved, the 7-on-7s, the year-round training, the nuanced teaching of wide receiver play. I think all that contributes to more wide receivers that you can find than offensive linemen, where it's been different. The game's evolved away from the pro-style offensive lineman developing, right? I think that's right. So if you subscribe to that in a general sense, that also leads me towards take the tackle that is the best bet to be your staple that you need there, especially a guy you want to put in there on day one.
Yeah.
To protect your most important asset, and that is your young quarterback.
And that is also, too, it's not just you want to put him in there day one. Like, he needs to be in there day one. But I think it would be an interesting case study to see, because I think that for all of the receivers that you just listed taken out of the first round, I could also make a list of incredibly explosive receivers that were taken in the first round that were projected to be what they ultimately came out to be. I'm interested to see, and I don't have it in front of me, the tackle situation of the hit versus miss on first round tackles. The offensive lineman taken outside of the first round that ended up being, your right or your left tackle for the next 10 to 15 years. And it's easier to kind of take it off the dome with receivers because you see them make plays on a consistent basis, that they're more faces of franchises than your left tackle is going to be. But I would be intrigued to see the hit versus miss rate on tackles versus receivers. And, of course, every draft is different. Like every draft is different, every player is going to be different, every situation is different because if a receiver is stepping into a situation where they've got a great offensive line and they've got their franchise quarterback, well, then they're probably going to be set up in a much better situation. I think Jerry Jeudy is an interesting case study because Denver has just been in, I mean, it's been a revolving door at quarterback, revolving door at head coach, revolving door at offensive coordinator. Had Jerry Jeudy been drafted elsewhere into a more stable situation, would we be talking about him in a much different light than we are now? I think same logic applies with quarterbacks. Young quarterbacks that get drafted into just horrendous situations, like Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Imagine if they hadn't moved on from Urban Meyer. Maybe we'd be talking about Trevor Lawrence as a bust.
Yeah, okay. So I found just looking through here briefly while you were talking, because that was a good question. Like, what is the hit rate or the success rate on positions outside, well, in the first round?
Yeah.
Like the success rate.
Did you find some?
Yeah, I found a 5-year.
Some
They did a
numbers?
5-year sample from 2013 to 17. Now, this study came out last year. I'm sure I can find a more current one. But wide receivers, out of 21 total in that span, 8 were hits. We're talking about 38%. Tackle, 17 were drafted, 10 were hits. That's almost a 60% rate. Now, that was just a 5-year span, 13 to 17. I'm going to continue to look to see if they have more of an up-to-date one. I can find what I need to find to make my point here. And is that the left tackle or the tackle position is a position you're going to get more of a hit rate with in the first round rather than the wide receiver. I can get a wide receiver outside the second round. Outside the first round. Wonder what is the hit rate for a wide receiver, the success
Outside of
rate
the first round.
outside of the first round
Right.
compared to a tackle.
And also the stories behind the numbers.
Exactly, the stories behind the number.
Like, what is a hit? Like, what would
be
I'm sure it's
classified
subjective.
as a hit? Is it a? And I'm gonna continue to read through here. Is it an All-Pro player? Is it a Pro Bowl player? What would be considered a hit to in regards to this study? Is it just a guy that's a starter, or is it an All-Pro type of player?
We have breaking news. The Mets have their first lead of the season. Thank you.
Wow.
They're playing your Tigers, D-Mase.
And we haven't lost the game yet.
It's 2-0 Mets. Brutal weather in New York. A doubleheader today because of rain out yesterday. So
How many
let's
games
go
has
Mets.
it taken for the Mets to get
This
their
is
first lead
game
of the
number
season?
4. This is game number 5. This is the 5th game. It took us that long to get the lead.
Well, it's about how you finish, not how you start,
That's
Willy.
right. That's right. The Marlins are 0-7. It could be worse.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
Yes, it could. Man, I'm sorry, Willy.
It's going to be
But
a
I'm
long
happy
year.
for you today.
It's going to be a long year.
All right, coming up next, the Predators have a big one tonight. But just how big is it? We'll get into that coming up next. We'll get your thoughts as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, is your bracket not looking so good? You are not alone, and you don't need to worry because we have one final chance for you to win some great prizes with the 1025 The Game 4-Team Bracket Challenge. Go to theGameNashville.com/bracket challenge and then fill out your 4-team bracket to compete to win prizes, including tickets to see Creed at Ascend Amphitheater on August 13th. The 1025 The Game Bracket Challenge brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook, Twin Peaks, and Volunteer Housing Gasket. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. A big game tonight for the Nashville Predators hosting the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues, after losing 4-0 to the San Jose Sharks, then beat the Edmonton Oilers, a big game for them. Now they come to Nashville, and St. Louis very much so has playoff hopes. St. Louis very much so is going to come in here and play like their season is on the line. Because even though it's not, it kind of feels like it. And it feels like it for both sides. It feels like it for the Blues, and it feels like it for the Preds. Because the Preds lose this game tonight, that doesn't mean they drop out of the playoffs. It doesn't mean they drop in the standings. It doesn't mean that it's time to panic. It doesn't mean that the world is falling. But it does feel like if you can beat the Blues tonight, you're in a much better situation moving forward. It's a 4-point swing. 2 points you get, 2 points that they don't.
They're trying to cross the finish line is what it really amounts to. The Kings winning last night probably took a little wind out of the sails for the Blues because
And the Preds
they've got to catch one of the two, and the Kings won, so they're within one of the Predators for that wild card number one. So wild card number one is the Predators with 90 points, 7 games to play. Kings with 89, 7 games to play. Blues 84, 7 games to play. So the Blues have no margin for error, and they need some help. So even if they can give themselves some help by beating the Predators tonight, and then they would still need some help. The Predators could lose this game and still control their own destiny. But again, you want to just get it done. You want to cross that finish line, and you want to be playing good hockey at this time of the year. But that being said, I remember the Predators last year. They had faint hopes, right? But you know what they brought to the table in those games down the stretch. They emptied the buckets. They knocked off a couple of teams. They knocked the Calgary Flames out of the playoffs, right? They were the last team standing that didn't make it. So they ended some team seasons. So I feel like you will get the best punch the Blues have tonight. And they are a very capable team that's got talent, and they've been winning. They're 8-2-1 in their last 11. Now, I talked to some of their guys that cover their team this morning, and they're like, well, they really screwed up their shot when they lost to San Jose. That was a tough blow, but give them a lot of credit. They turned right around and beat the Edmonton Oilers to stay in this thing. So I think from the Predators' standpoint, you look at this as this is your gateway to the playoffs. This is going to have a playoff kind of atmosphere and urgency. This is how you're going to have to play and play well in atmospheres like this if you're going to do well in the playoffs. So look at it that way and rely on your serial winners who have been there.
I think the game against Boston had a playoff feel. And I'm talking about at home. Now, I'm sure in Colorado there was a playoff feel there as well.
Oh, they're
exactly.
hungry over there. They're hungry out in Colorado, no question.
There was a playoff feel there. And, for the most part, hey, listen, the Preds was holding their own for a while and just kind of let it get out of hand. Come back here and you play Boston, and it's a hard-fought game, but ultimately Boston wins. That was a playoff-type atmosphere. It's going to be the same thing tonight, a playoff-type atmosphere. They need this game they need it because they want to get closer to the playoffs, obviously, and they want to separate themselves from the next team, that has the potential of possibly taking their spot. But I think they need to win this game just so they can, because I know how it can be in the locker room when like every game counts. Like if we don't get this game, the next game is even bigger. And if we don't get that game, then damn, it's like now the pressure it's closing in. The walls are closing in. You get a win tonight, it helps the walls stay still for a minute. Because right now, the walls are still feeling like they're closing in. Not to a point that they're not going to make the playoff, I don't think. But the point of going on the ice and everything being like a must.
Yeah.
Everything's a must. If you get tonight's game, everything is still a must, but the walls are not closing in. The walls have stopped. And now you can take a breath just for a minute before you head and play the next game. If you don't win this game, now the pressure really goes on.
Yeah, it
And
goes
that's
up a level.
exhausting.
No
Exactly.
question. Yeah.
That's exhausting to have that
yeah,
pressure
exactly.
level go up. And then it feels like, because 8 games left in the season, every game the pressure is going to be high. And then you go into incredibly high pressure situation into the playoffs. And that's exhausting. But Willie, you bring up relying on the serial winners, relying on the Ryan O'Reillys and the Gus Nyquists and the Ryan McDonoughs and the Roman Yosis. And Philip Forsberg is absolutely a part of that conversation. But is there a reason to be concerned about Philip Forsberg? Barry Trotz mentioned on Jared's show a couple of weeks ago that he's dealing with, I believe he said, a cut that's just kind of been nagging him, and Philip Forsberg hasn't practiced over the last couple of weeks. So Andrew Brunette joined Robbie and Rexroad this morning, gave an update on I don't want to call it an injury, but what's been nagging Philip Forsberg. This was Andrew Brunette.
With Forsberg not practicing, Andrew, is it fair to say basically he's just got a nagging thing that you would have to just completely stop playing for a minute to deal with? And I guess if you do get to the point where you're in good position here late season, would that be something you would consider?
I think it's very manageable. It's just kind of irritated, so I think it's something that it might take a whole off season to kind of let go of. But it's nothing that forces him from day to day not playing. I mean, he could practice with it, but I don't think it's really going to help him out. It's just an irritating thing right now. So it's nothing at all major. I don't think missing 1 game or 2 games is going to make a big difference.
Not a big deal, but Philip Forsberg this season has played the best hockey of his career, and I think that we would be wrong in saying that he wasn't a massive catalyst for not just this entire season, but also the 18-game point streak. Is there a reason to be concerned about Philip Forsberg and maybe the production that he's given you or gave you in the early part of the season, the first 75% of the season, that maybe you haven't seen over the last couple of games?
First of all, I'll take Barry Trotz's word for it. This was, I want to say, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe, when he revealed what was going on. And so he's been dealing with this thing for a while. He said a cut. I don't know the specifics of the cut, where it is or why it inhibited him.
I think it's more than a paper cut.
But it's safe to say that since he said that, he's had some enormous games, right? Practice or no practice.
Yeah.
He's had some huge games. So he's been dealing just fine with it. The only concern I would ask would be, has it gotten any worse? Something like that. I think I heard Bruno say it's just irritating.
Mm-hmm.
So to me,
It
that's
must be-
hockey players
Yeah.
deal with plenty of irritating things.
Must
At
be
this
a-
point
a
in the
cut,
season,
a
absolutely.
deep
I think it's a
cut,
non.
or-
I think it's a
yeah.
non-issue.
It's something
if you ask me.
it's something that because of I can assume. I'm going to assume here. It's something that just needs to we're in the season, it's never going to heal, really, because you're always putting the pads on, putting the pads off, taking
Probably
a shower.
some friction or stuff
everything.
like that. Yeah.
So it's not going to heal until he's not in pads for a good month.
Yeah.
And then it's able to heal. But it's not going to hinder him or, cause him to miss games moving forward, too.
Yeah. And so the other thing is, this is the ebb and flow of a hockey season. Like, even the best will have a game or 2 or 3 where the puck just doesn't go in. So Forsberg has been held in check. Forsberg and Yossi the last couple games have been held in check a little bit here. So you hope that is going to cycle back, or you get somebody picks up the slack from somewhere else in the lineup. I believe they're going to go back with Anthony Beauvillier tonight, who has been scratched in favor of Cody Glass. So we'll see if he gets going. I still think Beauvillier can give him something here, and he's still finding his way. Maybe hitting the reset button and getting his bearings a little bit will help him the second time through, getting back out there.
Is that the only lineup change?
That looks like the only lineup change to me that I saw.
Do you know who's in net?
Oh, I would assume Saros is in there tonight. I believe Saros is in there. Yeah.
So let's roll some of the possibilities tonight. You beat the Blues. It's a 4-point swing. You feel good. You're not, the X is not by your name. You haven't clinched, but you feel better about it. You feel like, okay, St. Louis, who's been playing, or at least played well against Edmonton, had the stinker against San Jose, but St. Louis, who kind of feels like they're creeping, you at least swat them away and put them at bay for now. Preds lose tonight. Then what?
Well, I think it emboldens the Blues. They would walk out of here saying, okay,
got a chance.
Okay, we've still got a chance. And they've got some opponents that they could mow down. If you look at their next few games, they are winnable games. They are very winnable for sure. The Predators go to Long Island, and they will play the Islanders, who are creeping back up. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot. So that's going to be a quasi-playoff game on Saturday. No question about it. So it just, like you were saying, D-Mase, the walls creep a little closer together. You get a little more tension, a little more nervousness that potentially could enter your locker room. But again, I like the leadership group. They've been through these kind of things. You feel like they will manage that pretty well, right? It's more of a veteran team. Since the trade deadline, they've gone a little bit on the older side and not the younger side. So this team has been through it. Now, does that mean they're going to figure it out? No, anything can happen in hockey. That's the thing. Anything can happen. So that's why I think this game is important. That's why, we saw that last night, right? And that's, by the way, New Jersey is another team that the Predators play here. That's a back-to-back. So you got a back-to-back situation Saturday, Sunday. So tonight, I think you could deliver a blow to the Blues where they would have to reasonably look and say, that might be it. So this is like the last stand for the Blues. That's why I think tonight is so important for them, the urgency on the Blues. So you have to match that if you're the Predators, if you want to be successful.
And there's no games in hand by either one of these teams.
Nope, seven games left, including tonight.
So
it was 7 games left. I said 8 earlier. 7. Excuse me. I'll correct myself on that. And Barry Trotz, when he was on with Jared earlier this week, he talked about how the playoffs is just different, and we know that playoff hockey is so different. It's a different feel. It almost feels like you're watching a different game when you're watching playoff hockey. And Barry Trotz talks about how the mentality going into the playoffs and the mentality going into games that aren't playoff games but feel like playoff games, and having players that can go in with a certain level of level-headedness. And when you're going into the game stressed out and panicked and thinking about, oh my gosh, this game's important, you play off your game. You play tense. I think that when you bring up the serial winners, that's such a massive part of it. That they've been here, they've done this, they've played in big games. And although tonight's not a playoff game, it's a game with a playoff feel.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm curious to see what the crowd looks like tonight. The crowds have been really good lately. They sense this that's going on. I think the crowd could make a big impact on this game tonight. I want to have a playoff feeling when I watch this game tonight. That's what I'm hoping for the crowd, and I think Andrew Burnett's the first to say, and Barry Trotz is as well, that they make a difference in the game. In games like this, you hope that your crowd can give you a little boost. There's no question that's been happening in the last few games.
Well, they need a Friday night frenzy. I know it's not Friday night, but they sure enough need it to
Friday
feel
night
like,
Frenzy on a Thursday.
On a Thursday night.
A thirsty
That's
Thursday.
how they need this stadium or this arena to feel, because the Predators are going to need that energy. Because St. Louis they're walking in here and they're sort of in the same position. The Predators are trying to maintain, and the Blues are trying to get in.
I think the start is important too, because I think if the Blues get off to a good start, that's only going to fuel their fire a little bit. Oh, okay, but we might get this, and that's where. But the Predators have had some good starts.
The last 3 games, really, with the last 3 games, even the game they didn't score, even the last game against Boston, they played tough first periods. They played tough second periods. They just let it get away from them in that mid-second to third period in the 2 games. Well, really all of them.
Yeah.
But
I think they got ambushed
started off
by Arizona. Arizona ambushed them after the Predators got to a good start. And then not to make excuses, but I do think the McDonough thing was a tough one to overcome. That was a big part of why they couldn't hold the lead there. But all that being said, I still think that if you can get off to a good start, get the crowd going and put the Blues behind the 8 ball. I'm not going to say the Blues are going to back down at all, but I think if you can keep instilling doubt that we're the better team here, we're here to put you away tonight. I think over the course of the game you can maybe wear them down some.
Well, if they play like they did against Boston, then I think they will wear St. Louis
Yeah.
down very quickly.
Yeah, and this is where Jordan Binnington's a big game goalie, right? He's the guy that if you're getting outshot, if you're getting outchanced, he can keep you in it. So he's a key guy to watch tonight. The Predators have had success against him this year, but he's a guy that has won a ton of big games, and he's been playing well for them lately. He's been through it.
I want to get into some of your thoughts on this as well. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter texts in and asks, is this a must-win game for the Predators?
I would say yes.
You think so?
Yes, not necessarily. Well, yes, because for this reason. I think you want to stop the bleeding, for one. And you want to get back to those winning ways that you had. You've been playing good hockey, but you haven't extended that good hockey throughout the whole game. Started off well against Arizona. Started off well against Colorado. Played tough against Boston. But there was this line in each game where it just seems like either you slowed down, the other team picked it up, or something happened. Now, obviously the McDonough thing, but this team has to, it's a must win because they have to get back to what they had, prior to this 3-game losing streak. They got to get back to that. I'm not saying that they lose, they miss the playoffs, but you don't want to continue because it gets harder. The more losing you do, even though, it may come down to the last game of the season. That's the pressure you didn't have to have if you took care of business at least 1 or 2 games, remaining. If you take care of business tonight in another game down the line, you're in.
It'd be nice to be able
exactly.
to cruise.
So that's why I say it's a must-win because I think they need to just relieve some of the pressure.
I'm gonna meet you halfway. By definition, it's not a must-win because even if the Blues win in regulation, which is what they need to happen to really keep their hopes alive, the Predators still control their own destiny in the final 6 games. They can still, if they win 4 more games, even if the Blues won every game in regulation, the Predators would still be in the playoffs over them. So they control their own destiny even if they lose tonight. But I would like to see them play like it's a must-win. And I think I hear Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett talk about process a lot. Now, how many times did Nick Saban talk about process, right?
The process.
That good coaches are always about that, right? There are certain things you can't control. If Binnington stands on his head and just steals the game, or if you have remember the goal the Canadians scored where it hit the stanchion and kicked into the net directly. Those are things you can't control, but you can control your process. If you come out and play your game, like the other night, I think they all walked out of there going, all right, we lost to the Bruins, but we played our game. We played a good game. If we keep doing that in the last 7 games, the process tells us we will get where we want to go here.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see tonight. What you don't want to see is a letdown and you're like, and panic setting in and what's going on and the Blues come in and steal one easily. That's when you start saying, well, is it time to sort of, sound the alarm here a little bit. But I think they're confident in the process if they execute the process.
I struggle calling it a must-win game because I do think, to a certain extent, that phrase is overused. Like a divisional round of the playoffs game, like that's a must-win.
Right.
Like Game 7 of the playoffs, like you need to win that game.
You lose, you're out.
Game 3 and you're down 2-0. Like you need to win that game. Those are must-win games. I can't call this a must-win because if the Predators lose this game, they're still in the playoffs. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Yeah, absolutely it does, and it makes things unnecessarily uncomfortable moving forward. But your season's not over. I don't know what another phrase would be, like a really important game to win, which doesn't sound nearly as sexy or pressing as must win. But I think also, too, what you don't want to see is they come out lazy. They come out lackadaisical. They come out slow. That's concerning to me because this is a playoff-style game. This is a playoff-esque game. And in the playoffs, you need to come out and you need to come out with your best game every single night. You need to come out playing fast. You need to come out playing hard. It's one of the reasons why I can step away from that Bruins game and say, that stinks, but still encouraged because for 2.5 periods, they went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. And they played well, and they played fast, and they got great goaltending. That's the key to me, is you just don't come out slow. Come out playing like this is a playoff game. right, we'll continue the conversation coming up next. We'll get back into your phones on this. We've got a lot of thoughts on the Predators, so we are to your thoughts on those coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Okay, we've been talking Preds, and it's time to talk Lee Company, which is a big sponsor of our Predators coverage, which begins at 6 o'clock. Max Hurst will be ready to roll. And we've got, of course, Pete Weber and Jay Moore on the call tonight here on 102.5 The Game. The game will be on ESPN Plus only tonight as far as a streaming telecast, if you will. So I will be joining Max right here at the desk at Barrel House at 6. Let me tell you about Lee Company. 615-567-1000 is the phone number. They are outstanding with their coverage year-round. Also, if you are at your business or your home and you need a maintenance issue serviced, and it doesn't matter what it is, just general maintenance, floors, doors, windows, something just tidied up that you really don't have the expertise on, make an online appointment right now at leecompany.com. They'll come out, boom, problem solved, and you can get ready for this game tonight between the Predators and the Blues. 615-567-1000 or make an online appointment at leecompany.com. It's Lee Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
privately look around, Andrew, and think about what possible matchups could be ahead in the postseason? I'm not expecting you to say it. I mean, you can say it to us if you'd like to. If you want to rank your favorites, here. But like, do you let yourself even think about that right now, or just
not a chance?
Not at all.
Not a chance. No. I think not a chance. I just got to get in, and I think we've done a good job of just playing the team that's in front of us today through that stretch, and I think that was good for us. It was a good learning experience. That we don't look too far ahead. We don't look too, anything behind. We just play what we got in front of us. And it's going to be a great challenge tonight against a very desperate team. And we have to match their desperation level. And we have to outwill them tonight if we want to win.
That was Predators head coach Andrew Brunette.
I don't think
Robbie
Coach Willy
Rexroad.
could have said it any better. I don't think Coach Willy could have said it any better.
That was text.
I did not tell Bruno to say that. Coach Willy did not talk about it.
Yeah,
he is wired just like Coach Willy, though,
Y'all
isn't he?
had a talk. Y'all had coffee this morning. Y'all had coffee together, Willie. Stop it.
Coach Bruno went to the Willy Donick
Exactly.
School of Media Training. It's interesting that you bring that up because just hearing Andrew Brunette talk about that, and say, we just got to get in. The task ahead of us. It was very coach speak.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Andrew Brunette was asked if there's a team that he would rather play in the playoffs, what he would say, because Jared asked Barry that earlier this week, and Barry was like, oh yeah, there's a team that I'd rather face in the playoffs. I'm not going to tell you who. But there is absolutely a team that I would rather see in the playoff than others. And we do, OBB, Open Book Barry. He says certain things that just other people, GMs, players, coaches, do not say. I would venture to guess that Andrew Brunette's answer would be, we don't care who it is. We just have to get in, and whoever we play, it's going to be great competition and so on and so forth. But Barry's like, oh, yeah. There is a team I'd rather play in the playoffs.
Listen, Barry is – I think Barry is what every GM wants to be, but they're like, I can't do it. I can't give that much. No, I can't do it. And Barry just like, hey, listen, this is what it is. Just because I don't say it doesn't mean it's not there. There is a team I would like to play, but I don't care. That doesn't mean I don't mind playing this team or that team or that team. We got to play who we got to play. But if you're asking me if I had a team to pick, yeah. There is a team that I would like to play.
It's not going to be like Penny Hardaway in the NIT. Like, no thanks, we don't want to go. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, we don't want to go to the playoffs because we have to play Colorado instead of Dallas.
And Barry knows what he's doing when he says stuff like that. I think he knows. He throws it out there, get people riled up a little bit. He knows what he's doing because he doesn't have to say any of that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But he does.
Yeah.
He gives you just enough that you keep coming back to listen to him more and more. He knows how to play the game.
But Brunette, I
Smart
think
man.
I sense, this is just my observation from where I sit, and because I've seen this in a lot of coaches, right? They stay up at night and they're thinking. There's a little bit of paranoia, paranoia is probably not. There's a little bit of worrywart stuff, right? There's like, okay, what's the worst thing? We got to guard against that. There's Lou Holtz was always famous for, even if they were playing the Sisters of the Poor, he would say, hey, the Sisters of the Poor, man, they are unbelievably well coached, and they've got this new sister that's unbelievably good, and we got to be ready. He's famous for that, right?
Nick Saban talking about Mercer, like they got to shut down defense.
They're unbelievably good. They're unbelievably well. I have so much respect for the Mercer program.
No, you don't, Nick. No, you don't.
You're going to kill them. It's going to be 50-0.
But he always had to find something.
There's that coach.
Yeah.
The coach had in the DNA has that. I think Brunette is like that. He's like, I've got to make sure first things first. You cannot talk about playoffs before you are in the playoffs. They're not in the playoffs. And you've got an urgent team tonight that is going to give you everything they've got. And if you're not ready to go, you could get beat. And if you get beat, it only gets tougher to get into the playoffs.
Well, he understands that his position, being the head coach, he is tasked with worrying about everything and you just going out there and playing. I worry about everything else. I will get with the coaches to make sure we have everything covered, all situations, no matter what it is. You just go out there and play and continue to work the things that we have been talking about. I need to worry about everything else, and I think that's every coach in whether it's the professional leagues or the collegiate leagues or even sometimes high school. We are tasked with worrying about a lot of things. You are just tasked with just going out there and playing.
Big one tonight for the Predators. We're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Predators, Blues, puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starting at 6 p.m. on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Want to get into some of your thoughts and your reaction, your anticipation for the game tonight. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our guy Adam in Portland is on the line with a thought on the Preds. Go ahead, Adam. What's up?
Hey, Willie. So I called you last week, and I said, you remember what I said? I said, I just want to see them lose, and you kind of laughed.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Dude.
And they lost. You got your wish.
What?
We had some fun at your expense on Friday, Adam.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, Adam, we opened the show with your call on Friday. I don't know if you
Absolutely.
heard it or not.
I missed that. No, look, hey, it's not me trying to, and I wasn't being smart, and I'm not Nostradamus, but look, they haven't won since. So like that's a legit fear of mine as a big fan of these guys. Is like, what's to come, man? Like, they're seriously streaky. We know that. Like, probably more so than any team of late, they're streaky. So are they going to be on a streaky bad losing streak? Like, I'm
Well, you
worried
tell
about
me. Is
that.
it okay if they win now? Is it all right with you and your grand plan if they turn it around and start winning? Have they lost enough for you to?
Yeah, Adam, you were the one that
Can
said
they
they
start
wanted
a
to
new
lose.
streak?
You're the one that wanted this.
Yeah, you asked for this.
You asked for this, Adam.
You did this.
Come on.
I think I've been with you guys long enough that you've minced my words now, and I can tell you that you minced my words, and you're trying to hurt me, and I'm not going to let you. But no, look, hey, I want them to do really well. I'm just saying, dude, like that's what happens with hot streaks, man. The Titans, hey, the 13-3 seasons, man, we would almost be like, okay, it's been going so well, I kind of need him to lose because I don't need him to lose later. I need him to go ahead and get it out of the way. But like, I'm hoping that's what it is with the Preds. I'm hoping they just get it out of the way now.
Thank you for your call, Adam.
Thank you,
I'm
Adam.
going to have to start. Worry Wart Willie no more. It is Worry Wart Adam from
Yeah.
Portland.
He's taking the mantle.
Anxiety, Adam.
Anxiety Adam.
There you go.
Double A.
Double A.
After tonight, then I will. If the Predators lose tonight, and I'm not going to go ahead and jump to conclusions, and I'm not going to be anxious or worried assuming that they will because they haven't. I will join Anxiety Adam and Worry Wart Willie
Some therapy sessions.
if the Predators lose tonight, but I can't get there right now. Because if they win tonight, all of that worrying kind of feels like it goes away, doesn't it?
I
As
would
far as making the
think,
playoffs, for
yeah,
sure.
I would think it would.
The magic number. This is a 4-point game. The old saying of that's what it is. The magic number for the Predators is 8. They could reduce that to 4, or it remains at 8. I mean, that's a big swing. And of course, there's overtime losses.
But when you say
that
they
could be
just
in
need
there.
they need a point. They need to walk away with at least a point.
A point would help. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt that would make the climb still very steep, much more so than a regulation win. But I'll tell you who else is going to, and I've heard it many times on many different sports and teams. You know who in the afternoon is going to, I'm worried. You know that will happen tomorrow. He's going to join Worry Wart Willie and Anxiety Adam and Caroline in the therapy. And Jared will be there too. He'll be, I'm worried. He's going to be like that.
Jittery Jared.
Yeah, Jerry Jared. There you go.
Jared. So I was on Jared versus Joe last night, and that was one of my questions for both Jared and Joe was, has this 3-game losing streak changed your perception of what this team could accomplish in the playoffs? And both of them said no. It happens. You're going to lose a few games. You won 16, not in a row, but an 18-game stretch. You won 16 of them. Andrew Burnett talked a lot about the hockey gods after the Boston game, and I think he was more so talking about specifically the game itself, but I think you could look at this last 20-21 game stretch and say, look, it's the hockey gods. It's the law of averages. You won a lot. You're going to lose a few. Now get back to your winning ways, and then all will be well in the world.
Yeah, and you've hit this point, both of you have, and I think it's an important one, is what are you seeing on the ice?
Yeah.
You can lose and still say, well, I still like how they're playing. What's the process? What are the analytics telling you? Are they doing the little things? I think that will be a big part of it. If they just come out and look completely disjointed, then I think that it would contribute to how worried you would be the next day. If it's just an unbelievable game and the Blues their goalie plays lights out, but the Predators outshoot them, outchance them, that's a little different than let's knock on the Dallas effort where it was below the standard. Remember, that was the big talk, the whole cancellation of the trip and everything was, we are not playing up to the standard that we have set. But these last 3 losses, they haven't played great, but they've put out, so there's been some good things in there. I don't see them completely just mailing it in or anything like that.
In these last 3 games, which obviously they've lost, I think there were moments where you can pick out as a coach and said these are things that we're doing that are great, and these are things that we have continued to do even when we were in that 18-point streak. It has carried over even in the losses, the good things that we're doing. But also we got to clean up some of this bad stuff. We got to play 3 periods instead of 2.5. We can't get lax just because we have a lead. We got to continue. This is the time. Well, it started a while back, but this is a time where when you have teams, down 2-0, you got to bury them. You can't give them any life. And I think they gave Arizona life. They definitely gave Colorado life, but we understand the circumstance within that. And then it just seems like, one mistake against Boston or one just lack of concentration or whatnot, they go in, they score a goal, and then all of a sudden the game's pretty much over. Whoever scores that first goal more than likely will win this game. Boston ended up scoring it, and the Predators could not rebound from that. So they've done some good things in this losing streak of 3. They've done some bad things. They got to figure out a way to clean up the bad stuff and continue with the good stuff.
And we'll continue this conversation with Elliot Friedman. He'll join us at 1 o'clock for his weekly visit. We'll talk this game, we'll talk playoffs, we'll talk tonight, and we'll talk moving forward with Elliot. But coming up next, why is his name? Mike Lombardi. My goodness. I was like, who in the world am I thinking of? Mike Lombardi touched on the Stephon Diggs trade. Of course, it was the news of yesterday morning. Stephon Diggs traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans, and we spent a lot of day yesterday talking about what that means for the Texans, what that means for the Titans, what that means for the AFC South. But could this actually be one of the best things that the Buffalo Bills could have done in the strangest way possible? We'll get into that coming up next before we catch up with Elliot at 1 p.m. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, tune in to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game this week for NCAA tournament coverage, brought to you by Toyota. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today at toyota.com.
that the Buffalo Bills
Yep.
are finalizing a trade to send star wide receiver Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans for draft compensation. Michael, Buffalo gets the Texans' 6th-round pick this April, a 2025 second, that's the big one, and a 5th. What did you make of the news?
Well, a couple things here. Diggs, when he first got traded to Buffalo, he was coming off almost an 18-yard season per catch. This year he had 11.1, wasn't the same player. And I think Buffalo is shifting from a 11 team, 1 back, 3 receivers, to a 12 team, 1 back, 2 tight ends. And I felt like they were probably had enough. Now, here's the biggest issue. They just redid his contract. So basically they paid $20 million over 2 seasons to get a second-round pick 2 years from now. I mean, this was bad planning. And now, but with Tre'Davious White and Diggs, they've got astronomical. They have almost $50 million in dead money on their cap because of the 2 players that they signed to extensions that aren't even there. But, look, for Buffalo, it's going to come down to drafting a young player. Maybe it'll be Mac Hollins replaces Gabe Davis. Because remember, with Gabe Davis and Diggs now, Stormy, they lost 92 first downs. Forget the catches. When you catch it and get a first down, that's the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. You get to keep the ball. And so, 92 first downs is a lot of first downs to replace. Can Curtis Samuel handle that? I don't know. Mac Hollins, when he played at the Raiders 2 years ago, could vertically run down the field and make plays. Could he replace Gabe Davis? We shall see. But they're going to need to draft a receiver. But the one thing I will say, as long as you have Josh Allen, he can make everybody look better.
That was Michael Lombardi on the GM Shuffle podcast. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're out here Bridgestone Arena. Predators in action tonight against the St. Louis Blues. So I hear Michael Lombardi there, and we talked about this a lot yesterday, about what this means for the Texans, the Bills, the Titans, so on and so forth. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more I feel like all of this dead money that the Bills are on the hook for can actually be a good thing for the team. And I know you might think, why? Like, you're losing playmakers and Stephon Diggs, and Michael Lombardi mentioned 92 first downs from between Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs combined. You lose Tre'Davious White. But the Bills are fronting that money to get rid of a player who was a cancer in the locker room in Stephon Diggs, which is, let's be honest, that's what he was. He was causing a problem. He was publicly embarrassing Josh Allen. And they're getting rid of a player in Tre'Davious White who played 4 games last year and 6 games the year before. He hasn't played a full season since 2018. So yes, it's a lot of dead money. And yes, you're losing 2 marquee players, more specifically in Stephon Diggs, since he's been the more available and the more impactful player. But the Bills, if I'm the Bills, I'm looking at it like, look, we're going to pay for it now. We're going to have to deal with the dead cap money now. But we're moving on from 2 players that either didn't give us anything or gave us more bad than good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tre'Davious White, I think that was basically because of the injury history.
Yeah.
Like you said.
He's not available. I think he's a good guy, but
he's
not
a good
available.
player, but he hasn't been available enough for the Buffalo Bills. So they had to eventually move on from him. And he's been on their roster for a good minute now. The Stephon Diggs situation, I just think, and I think Lombardi is right. I think they're going in another direction. They don't want to. They want this to be Josh Allen's team, and they don't want him to have to compete with anybody else. Because when Stephon Diggs is in a locker room, he's a alpha player, and with that comes a lot of things. You gain the respect of. Some people may defer to you rather than to defer to Josh Allen. On some things. Some people may side with you rather than side with Josh Allen. And then you have the antics on the sideline. I'm not sure if he was a cancer in the locker room, but when you show up your quarterback on national television more times than once, then that continues to be a problem. And I said this yesterday. I think there was a point, not that he and Diggs don't like each other outside of the football field. I'm not saying they hung out with each other. I'm sure they respected one another, and they had somewhat of a friendship. But I think during the games, not outside of the locker room, not outside of the field, but during the game, he made Josh Allen uncomfortable because now I not only have to worry about just the game, I got to worry about getting him the ball every time, or if I don't get it, the ball, and we don't make a third down, is he going to explode on the sideline? Mm-hmm. That's why I think Buffalo sort of was like, okay, this needs to be his club, his ball club, and not share with Stephon Diggs. So they moved on for Stephon Diggs. So to me, it's going to be a blow to Buffalo. I don't know how much of a advantage they will get in Houston with adding him to that roster. Now, obviously, he does, truly solidify that receiving room. Now they got 3 bona fide guys that can go out and get it. But he has to understand that his role changes now. Mm-hmm. And you're walking into a situation where you're not the number one anymore. Nico Collins is the number one. He's proven he's the number one. He's the number one to the quarterback and to the offensive coordinator because he was there last year and put up good numbers. And then you got Tank Dell that is going to come back off an injury. Now you have to find your place, Stephon Diggs. You're still a damn good player, but you got to find your place because you're not walking in, in uplifting a wide receiver room to have a bunch of scrubs. No, they got 2 bona fide studs, and you're walking in. Mm-hmm. Now, you got to find your place. They ain't making a place for you. You got to find your place within this receiving core. The sooner you find your place, the better this team will be. If you can't find your place and you complaining, they're going to get rid of you very quickly because you can't have that circling a young quarterback. And to Lombardi's saying Josh Allen makes players better, who has he made better? Answer me that question, Willie. Who has
Josh Allen might take issue with that.
Yeah, who has Josh Allen made better? What was Josh Allen before Diggs got there? Nothing. I'm going to answer that question for you. Nothing. Okay?
I mean, that is obvious, clear and obvious. I was going to say.
No, he didn't make Gabe Davis better either.
I don't know if I can say that he did or he didn't.
No. I mean, again,
Stephon Diggs elevated Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is a good quarterback, no doubt about it. If we had him, I would love to have him here if he was our quarterback.
I don't know if you would.
But he's not the quarterback that everybody portrays him to be. It's like, did y'all see what was going on before Stephon? They were wondering whether he was a quarterback or not. Like, did we make a mistake by drafting this guy? Because he can't hit the broadside of a barn. And then all of a sudden you get Stephon Diggs, and now you're an elite quarterback.
Yeah. And I think more quarterbacks fall into that category than not, like Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts, we were talking about, is Jalen Hurts a starting quarterback in this league?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you surround him with playmakers, and he turned into the highest paid quarterback in the history of the National Football League. So I think, to be fair, more quarterbacks are elevated by pieces around them than quarterbacks elevate those pieces around them.
I think Allen can elevate. He's capable of elevating, but he just makes so many mistakes that it kind of evens out. And he is going to miss Diggs and Davis. I mean, the combination of the two, that's a lot to replace. But so I think that's the biggest thing about Lombardi's statement there is you just don't want to have to pay a lot of dead money to players that aren't playing for you. That does put you behind the 8 ball. It'll put you in tough situations. This is not, it will catch up to you when you say, because a couple years ago he said they just redid it. Well, when you redo it, and then you turn right around and trade him, you get caught with a big bill. That's a big bill.
And then they'll redo another contract.
Right. It sets you down a cycle. That's why I'm concerned about the Titans. When you go in hard on free agency for a lot of these guys, you might find yourself in that situation again, especially if what you hope happens. And that is you draft some guys that you want to sign to the next contract. You'll be looking around going, well, where are we going to get the money? Well, we got to go to so-and-so and so-and-so. We got a lot of cap dollars tied up in.
Yeah.
Which is what the Bills are going to do. Yeah. They'll go to Josh Allen. They'll go to whoever else is under contract in Buffalo. I mean, my goodness, they made so many changes this offseason. I don't even know who has a big contract in Buffalo.
It may just be.
But they'll redo those, and they'll free up cap space. So that cash that they owe to Gabe Davis to Stephon Diggs and Tre'Davious White, they'll get that off the books, and then moving, and it'll build through the draft because I think that's what they have to do. That's probably priority number 1A is receiver in the first round of the draft.
Well, if they don't get it right, then obviously Sean McDermott will be gone. I think he's on the
Totally.
hot seat this year. If he doesn't get this right, and I mean, they got to be either they got to get to the AFC Championship game, or they need to beat Kansas City on the way to going to the AFC Championship game. But they have to prove that they can beat Kansas City, and they have not proven that.
And then it also puts him in a tough position. Hey, we're going to trade away our number 1 wide receiver and also our number 2 wide receiver, and we need you to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this season.
Nah, that ain't going to happen.
Whew.
Unless you go out and get a Doomsday and Neighbors, find some way to get both of them, and then you're back in the mix.
And fairy tale lands are great.
Yeah, I know it is.
I would love to drive a sports car. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back into your phones on that. But coming up next, the Predators are hosting the St. Louis Blues tonight. Elliot Friedman, Sportsnet, and the 32 Thoughts podcast will join us to break it all down coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators are taking on the St. Louis Blues tonight. Big ol' game for the Predators tonight. 7 games left in the regular season. And joining us now to break down the game tonight and looking ahead to the playoffs is our friend Elliot Friedman from the 32 Thoughts podcast and Sportsnet. Elliot, I have a bone to pick with you.
Uh-oh. What did I do now?
Bring in the heat.
The Predators were on an 18-game point streak. They were riding high. They were feeling great. They were playing like one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. And as soon as we talked with you last week, they went out and had a clunker at Arizona, and they haven't won since. I blame that on you.
Responsibility. I accept responsibility for this.
Damn you, Elliot.
I hang my head in shame.
I at least appreciate you accepting that responsibility, but we're going to have to turn things around here tonight against the St. Louis Blues. Elliot, we've had some very nervous and worried and concerned Predators fans that over the last 3 games, you know, a clunker at Arizona, and then they look great against Colorado, but they end up falling 7-4 to Colorado, give up 15 goals in a 2-game streak, 18 goals in a 3-game streak. We have some very concerned Predators fans. But I want to hear it from you. Should Predators fans be concerned about the Predators making the playoffs and the Predators' ability to be competitive in the playoffs?
Well, when Nick, the producer, called me and said there were Predators fans worried they might not make the playoffs, I said, really? Like, people are really worried about that? And he said, oh, yes, there are people worried. And I guess it doesn't take a lot, Carolyn, after riding the wave of 18 in a row with at least a point and no regulation losses to 3 losses in a row, and people are worried. I wouldn't be that worried. Now, obviously, look, like you have a streak like that one, the pendulum is going to swing the other way. It's just sports. That's the way it is. You're going through that right now. And this is a huge game tonight. The one thing that you guys have control over is to beat the team that you have to beat. And tonight, this one is a huge one for you. But I still really like your chances. Look, you're 6 points up. You've got the same games played. This will be game number 76 for both of you. Also, the other thing you have to realize is the number one tiebreaker is regulation wins. Coming into tonight, the Predators have 35. The Blues have 29. It's like they have to beat you outright. I just find it really hard to believe that the Predators, as well as they've played the last 3 months, are going to get into such a situation that they're going to blow a 6-point lead with 7 games to go. I could always be wrong, but I believe too much in what they've done to think that that's going to occur.
I think a lot of Predators fans might be breathing at least a little bit of a sigh of relief. Sometimes you get spoiled on an 18-game point streak that a couple of losses here and there feel like the world is ending. Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts and Sportsnet, is with us. Elliot, when you look at this Predators team and you evaluate them and the streak that they went on, and even though they've lost the last 3 games, they looked pretty good while doing it. If you could say that there's one advantage that this Predators team has going into the playoffs, maybe one reason that could push them to the second round of the playoffs, what do you think it would be?
Well, the most important thing in the playoffs is goaltending. You get the saves when it matters, and you guys have a great goalie. So that's number one. Number two, I think that you guys have proven there's a certain way that Andrew Burnett wants you to play, and you guys have done a really good job of doing that. And there's very rare that there's sweeps. It's normally much more than that. So when things go wrong for you, how calm are you, and how much do you trust the way you're supposed to play? The way that you played all year, do you get back to that? Do you fall back to that way of playing, or do you completely fall apart and start doing things you're not supposed to do? It's pretty clear to me that the Predators trust the way they've been asked to play, and nobody's done a better job of
leading the way than Yossi. Like he's completely changed the way I shouldn't say completely, but he's changed a lot of the way that he was asked to play. And it's worked. And I think when people see the captain buying in, they buy in. So number one, I would say, is the goalie. Number two is the trust in what they do. I mean, a lot of it comes down to matchup. Like right now, it looks like the 1-2 seeds are going to be Dallas and Vancouver. The one thing I don't like if it's Dallas, to me, Dallas is the deepest team in the league. From 1 to 20, I think they're the deepest. I think that's a really tough matchup for anyone. Their goalie, Jake Ottinger, hadn't been very good for a lot of this year. He's started to heat up. That's going to be a big challenge. And I don't think anyone's going to want to see them in the first round if the goalie's on.
We'll talk with Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts Podcast. Now, Elliot, with that being said, amongst the teams that we predict that will make the playoffs, where does the Nashville Predators rank in regards to depth? Because that's what is going to basically it's going to boil down to how deep can this Predator team go compared to, say, like a Dallas or a Colorado, because they're going to have, these are the teams they're going to have to match up with in the first round.
They're going to be an underdog in whatever series they go up against. If you look at the standings, it could always happen. It's almost like pick your poison, right, Derek? Like if you catch Winnipeg, you're playing Colorado. Well, that's not a lot of fun. If you finish first or second wild card, and right now you guys are wild card 1, you're getting Dallas and Vancouver. That's not a lot of fun. So no matter what series that you're going to play, you're going to be the underdog. Like, that's just the way it is. The other team is going to be the favorite against you. Now, I think you guys have proven this week you're a lot deeper, or this year, you're a lot deeper than we thought and a lot better than we thought. And the other thing, too, is, Derek, I really believe this, and I'm sure you've played on teams like this before. You get to the playoffs, and it's like house money. You're like, we did not think we were going to be here this year. Like, this is a complete surprise. Like, I guarantee you, if the Predators get in, Andrew Burnett's going to tell them, guys, at the beginning of the year, no one thought we were going to be here. So make sure you enjoy the experience. And sometimes when you are able to play like that, you can play freer. If they make if they weren't going to make the playoffs, it would be a huge disappointment for the Predators and their fans. And I think they're going to make it anyway. But how many people who are Predators fans really thought there would be home games in the second or third week of April this year? I bet not very many. And so now you're going to get the opportunity to do it. You're going to put that car out front that you're going to smash with sledgehammers with a Canucks or an Avalanche or a Stars logo on it, and you're going to have a great time. So you're going to be playing a team that has no pressure, and that's you guys. And I think that can be a great thing for a team.
Now, what does it say? Because Barry came on the other day with Jared, and he talked about Jared asked him a question, is there a team you'd rather play? And he said, yeah, but he didn't give the team's name out. Typically, you don't see that from coaches, players, and you damn sure don't hear that from GMs. Yeah. What do you make of that? Does it take by him saying something like that, does it take pressure off of anyone, or does it add pressure to anyone?
That there's a team that they'd like to play against?
Yeah, but he's not going to say it, but he did. Well, there is a team, yes.
Well, I think it would only add pressure if Barry came out and said, give me Vancouver.
Bulletin board material.
Vancouver, we're beating them in 5. Yeah, then you've got a problem. Or give me Dallas or something like that.
Because you typically don't hear this or see this from from coaches, let alone GM.
Open book, Barry.
You know what? This is the thing. The one thing, I listen to Barry's segments on your station, and the thing that I really respect him on this is he gets it. When he's on your station, he's talking to your fans. He's talking to you guys, but he's talking to your fans. And it's very obvious he sees the importance of doing it. So he tries to give a little bit more without giving away anything, and that's what that is. Like Barry's watching this as a coach. He's looking at he's looking at Vancouver, he's looking at Colorado, he's looking at Dallas, and he's saying, like, this is what we would look like against them, or this is what we. So I sure think that he would look at it and say, I think we've got a better chance against X team than Y or Z. But no, Derek, he's not going to tell you what it is. You know, it's funny. Like, there are people in the hockey world. There's mostly fans. I don't know many executives who agree with this. My coworker on the podcast, Jeff Merrick, wants it really badly. He wants a playoff system where the number one seed has to pick their opponent. And I said, you know, Jeff, like, that's never going to happen. Who knows? Maybe it does happen someday. But there's, like, could you imagine, like, Barry Trotz, like, Nashville wins the number one seed, walking up to a microphone and say, we're in the first round, we're going to take the St. Louis Blues? He would want no part of that. None. Zero.
Drama. Elliot Friedman is with us. Speaking of drama, Elliot, quite the race in the East right now. You said you love races. Well, you got it with the 5 teams for 2 spots, and now Pittsburgh still has a shot, which a couple weeks ago people stopped talking about them other than what a disaster of a season. Now they've got a chance. And the Predators play at the Islanders on Saturday, and they finish the season on Monday. It's not the Penguins' last game. It's their second to last game, but they're in Pittsburgh. So they're going to play a small role in this one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is, you know, it's true. We thought they were dead. You know, we thought they were completely finished. And, you know, I just think it's just a reminder that you can never count that guy out. And, you know, there's a big debate now. We also have to start going over who we're voting for awards. The ballots have to be in before the first playoff game. And, you know, if Crosby gets the Penguins into the playoffs, he's going to get a lot of MVP votes. So, first of all, he's really led, and it's just a reminder what an incredible professional that he is. Nobody would have blamed him if he had just said, that's it, we're done. But he's just driving. I cannot believe. On one hand, it's a credit to him, and on the other hand, it's a real shot at some of the other teams that had a chance to bury the Penguins, and they didn't do it. And now they're in the race. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this game tonight. And I'll say this, if Pittsburgh wins, I mean, if Pittsburgh gets in the playoffs, he might be the MVP too. It would be that stunning.
Wow.
I cannot disagree. And you know, it's interesting. We were talking about could it unravel so much that you would even have to, if you're Sidney Crosby and the Penguins mutually deciding, well, maybe it's time to trade the legend. You know, as crazy as that would sound. But now, you know, he keeps you around. So the drama could be there. And meanwhile, the Islanders, maybe give us a sense of where the Islanders are, because they looked maybe dead in the water a week and a half ago, and they've surged a little bit to get back in it.
Well, I think the thing, Willie, I know you listen to the pod. You know I'm a big expanded playoff guy. I think they should.
This is another thing. So this is where Merrick gets back at you. He says you're crazy for wanting to expand the playoffs.
Well, I do want to do it because I think it's better for the overall financial health, of the league, and I think it creates more interest. Like, more playoffs create more interest, and also, and you would probably know this as much as anything else too, this is a gate-driven league. This is a league that depends more on gates than just about any other league out there, and why would you create a situation where less of your teams would have interest in them? Like, if you don't make the playoffs, then your season tickets goes down, your interest goes down, your TV ratings goes down, everything goes down. So why aren't we creating the best environment to maximize the salary cap? That's my point. Anyway, one of the reasons that people are disagreeing with me over this, and I get it, they're not wrong, is that some of these teams this year, it's been like a turtle derby.
Right.
get to the
You're
playoffs.
saying, that, and the argument is, why should they really have a chance to play for the Cup? Because they haven't been a great team.
Like, if you take a look at it, Philly, and those are a lot of kids there, like, they're coming back to earth and they've opened up the race a bit. But Washington, their goal differential is minus 35. That could be the worst goal differential to make the playoffs in the salary cap era. But they're there. Detroit, they haven't been able to knock it down. The Islanders haven't been able to knock it down. Like, all these teams who've had chance to end each other's chances, they haven't been able to do it. So it's tough to you have to praise Pittsburgh because they came from nowhere to get back in. But all those other teams, you can't really praise them because all they've done, like, all these teams had chance to knock each other out, to say, all right, you're done. But they can't do it. So you can't praise anybody.
Last one for you, Elliot. I have learned about myself that I don't like change very much, so I'm trying to embrace it. And one thing that I've embraced is expanded playoffs. College football did it, and I like the idea of an expanded NHL playoff because I'll take more games that mean something. So I'm with you. I'm pro-expansion, but how realistic of a possibility do you think that is, and what would that timeline look like?
Well, I'll say this. I have fought for it for years, and the commissioner hates it. He just hates it. And there have been people who've tried to get him to change his mind, and he doesn't. He thinks it's terrible. He thinks that the regular season matters. And last year, too, Carolyn, the two teams that missed the playoffs in the East missed by like 20 points. So he's like, look at that. You think those teams deserve to be in the playoffs? However, all of that said, I do think we're not far from expansion. And right now, half the teams get in, 16 of 32. And I've got to think if you do expand, you're going to be looking at expansion of playoffs. I just don't think they'll go to a place where less than 50% of teams can make the playoffs.
Elliot Friedman, you are the very best. Appreciate your time and always appreciate your insight. And we'll catch up with you next week, hoping that this visit with you this week turns the Preds' bad fortune around. Okay, because I don't need another week of feeling shame. So I really hope so too. And we will do what we have to do, Elliot. It's not fun to do, but we have to do
We
it.
shame you.
Yeah, okay. I look forward to it. I'm a glutton for punishment.
All right, appreciate you,
Like the
Elliot.
goalie in Slapshot. Two minutes, feel shame.
All right, appreciate you, Elliot. Thanks for stopping by. Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts Podcast and Sportsnet. We'll react to what Elliot had to say there. Plus, we've got a bunch of thoughts in our text line and our conversation earlier. In a recent mock draft from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic, Malik Neighbors on the board at 7, but he has the Titans going Joe Alt. Would you be able to stomach it if the Titans forego Malik Neighbors and take the offensive lineman? We'll get into your thoughts on that as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Hey, listen, we are one day closer to the Final Four starting up, men's and women's. Women's starts up tomorrow, and the men's starts up Saturday. So if you want to get your bets in, you better do it now. And you need to do it with our partners in sports. And I'm excited to tell you about their introductory promotion, as I have been telling you for weeks, available to all new customers, all right? It's the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager when you place your first bet on Zen Sports. You will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched their VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, then listen up. The VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports, people. So what are you waiting for? Get going and download their app today. That's zensports.com. Hey, listen, Zen Sports, where betting just got better, everyone. And remember, If you have any gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits today as the Nashville Sounds take on the St. Paul Saints at First Horizon Park. Pre-game at 6:20 p.m., first pitch at 6:35, with coverage also available on the 93.3 Classic Hits app and at 933classichits.com. Sounds Baseball presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, which today is Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Big game for the Predators tonight, hosting the St. Louis Blues. A great opportunity for the Preds to get a win tonight and create that 4-point separation between themselves and the Blues. 2 points that they would get and 0 points that the Blues would get. We've got a bunch of thoughts in our text line on everything, and everything is on the table. We talked earlier in the show about Bruce Feldman's most recent mock draft. He has the Titans going Joe Alt, even though Malik Neighbors was on the board. Do you think that's the right move? Every single mock draft has the Titans taking Joe Alt. If that's how it shakes out, how would you feel about it? And, of course, we just chatted with Elliot Friedman on the Predators. So let's get into your thoughts, unless we have thoughts.
Let's go to the phones.
Let's get to the phones. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Terrell Texan asks, how do the Titans address inside linebacker and safety? Rand Carthon did mention when L'Jarius Sneed was introduced, Rand Carthon spoke with the media, and he did mention how there's several safeties on the market that they'll probably address in this next wave of free agency. Justin Simmons is on the market. I believe he's on the market.
He's still on the market, yes.
So they've got some options at safety. I feel like that's not a position that they would necessarily have to address in the draft. But inside linebacker, that's a big one. You don't have a green dot at the moment.
Yeah, you don't. And can you find one via the draft, one you can, plug and play? I don't know. There could be a inside backer that you can draft, not in the first round, but outside of the first round that can come in and, be that green dot guy. And if you don't, then you got to do it via free agency, whether that's after the draft in June, or it could possibly be during camp where they get that guy. So to me, you have to get him, but where do you get him? Or it could just be a short-term fix. You get a free agent guy. He doesn't have to be an all-pro or Pro Bowler, but a solid middle backer, a guy that is used to communicating, a guy that can communicate across the board with everybody on the defensive side of the ball, a guy that knows the plays, that knows the calls. Again, he doesn't have to be a all-pro player. He just needs to be a good communicator and make sure he's a general. That's basically what he is.
The quarterback of the defense.
Exactly. Make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there.
And Rand Carthon did mention it doesn't have to be a linebacker. It doesn't have to be an inside backer.
It doesn't, but it's hard when it's outside that backer because
I
they
know.
see the field different.
Like, it can't just be Jeffrey Simmons.
Exactly.
He doesn't see the
He
entire
has his hands in the ground all the
Yeah,
time.
right.
It's hard for him to do it.
If not a middle backer, who do you think it could be?
It could be the safety.
A safety?
I see that as being the only other guy.
But it can't be a corner.
It can't be a corner. I don't know the last time a corner had a green dot. Usually it's the inside backer or possibly the safety. So outside of an inside backer and a safety, I don't think you can put. I mean, you can, but they just everybody else sees the field differently from the safety and the linebacker.
I'm a little depressed.
Uh-huh.
D-Mace's Tigers have
Yes.
come back to tie the Mets. The Mets had their first lead of the season, and now they have their first squandered lead of the season. It's 3-3 in the bottom of the eighth.
Damn Mets!
The Tigers are trying to go 162-0 on the season.
Hey, so we got a chance to do it, huh?
You still got a
Absolutely.
chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Exactly. So.
What else do the people have to say,
All
Caroline?
right, looking through the text line, one texter texts in about Nick Westbrook-Akine because we played a clip of Paul Kuharski on with Robbie and Joe, and he said, Nick Westbrook-Akine is an explosive. And he says, Dylan says, Nick Westbrook-Akine. I'm still refining
Work in
it.
progress.
We're still working on it.
That was better than
I
your
like
first
it,
shot.
though. I like it, yeah.
Thank you. It's better than Joe's.
Yes.
If you've ever heard Joe try to do a Paul Kuharski, he's a little bit too Jersey Italian.
Exactly.
But Dylan
man.
says NWI has been productive and healthy, which is more than I can say for any receiver or the Titans have had the past 3 or 4 years. Aside from Hopkins, the man doesn't complain. He just gets to work and absolutely love him. That's all true, and that's all fine and great. But still, there's a ceiling with Nick Westbrook-Akine. It's like Rudy. Rudy wasn't the best player on the team, but he had heart.
Yeah. You can't coach hard, so there you go. Everybody has it, but what you choose to do with it it's a different story, or how you choose to love or whatever else. And I've said this before about Nick Westbrook-Akine. Is he your top line number one? No. Is he your number two? No. Can he come in and probably give you a few plays at number two? Yeah, he can do that. But every team needs a Nick Westbrook-Akine on it. They do. Because what he does as the third or the fourth, whichever one you're going to put him at, what guys like that do, they don't get a lot of fanfare, But when you don't have him, you miss him. Because what he is able to do is, no matter whether it was Ryan Tannehill or whether it was Will Levis, I can't say Malik because Malik didn't hit nobody. But let's say those two quarterbacks. He has been where he was supposed to be when he was supposed to be there, and he made the plays for the Tennessee Titans when they have asked him to do it. They haven't asked him to make many plays, but the plays they have asked, whether it's a crucial first down or a crucial touchdown, Nick Westbrook-Akine has been there. Again, he's not a one or a two, but you need a guy like that on your team, because when you don't have a guy like that on your team, you tend to miss him, and then everybody's screaming, why y'all didn't keep Nick Westbrook-Akine? This is why they're keeping him, for reasons like this. Like, listen, they don't expect him to have 90 catches, 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns. They expect him to make crucial catches in game when they ask him to. And that's all he's done since he's been the Tennessee Titan.
But game on the line, whose hands do I want the ball in? Not Nick Westbrook.
No, it's not that I want him.
But I understand your point. You're not going to have a 53-man roster of Pro Bowlers.
But again, if the game's on the line and for some strange reason, D-Hop falls down, Calvin Ridley's doubled, Traylon Burks get jammed at the line, you run a 4 wide receiver set, I'm glad I got a Nick Westbrook-Akine now. Because you don't have 3 defense. You don't have 3. Damn sure don't have 4 defensive backs that can cover my 4 receivers. So I'm glad I got a Nick Westbrook-Akine on my team, because I know for sure Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to beat your 3rd corner and your 4th corner.
If it comes to...
I like having him at the right price. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a nice guy to have on your team at the right price.
Yeah.
Westbrook-Akine is not explosive. Repeat those words.
I never said he was.
Well, let's say it. Let's get it on the record.
I'm
You
not-
saying he's not
I'm
explosive.
not Bart Simpson, the chalkboard for you. I'm not your
Nick
little puppet.
Westbrook-Akine
Is he explosive?
is
No.
not
Is
explosive.
he
Get
explosive?
that
said he
on
was.
tape. Mark that on tape, Nick.
Mark that on tape, Nick.
He's not explosive.
Well, he's not.
Who argued that he was explosive? Nobody in
Nobody.
Nashville has ever said he's explosive, have they?
I've never said he was explosive. I said he's a good player. I never said he was explosive.
How did we get there? I don't. This is out of context because I hear this argument. I'm like, who's arguing for Nick Westbrook-Akine being explosive?
Well,
He's
I guess the
he's
premise,
steady.
Yeah, the premise.
He is who he is.
The point
premise
was-
of it. Yeah, they
Right,
Are they
I
in
know,
dire
that's
need of a
right,
receiver,
right.
or do they just
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll get one if if they're there?
The point was, it's not like you go out and get Calvin Ridley,
Exactly.
and all of a sudden the passing game is untouchable, unstoppable, and can't even be improved
Because you
upon.
signed Nick Westbrook-Akine back.
Right, yes. And because you brought in Calvin
None of this has to do. None of that has to do with Nick Westbrook-Akine, the player.
No, not
He's
really.
the same guy he's always
Yeah,
been.
He's always been this player. I mean, he's gotten better, but this is what
Right.
you expect from him. Like, 35 catches, 300-400 yards, somewhere around there. I don't know.
Yeah,
40
he's
catches.
reliable, and
Exactly.
you need that.
Poor NWI. The guy gets
Yeah.
pulled
Gets
into this
dragged
thing. He
in
does,
for everything.
Like, gosh.
It's not about him.
That man just like, I'm just playing football. Leave me
It's not, I'm just
alone.
trying to do my job here.
Exactly.
Duncan Franklin texts in, says, if Joe Alt is available at number 7, the Titans will take him. The question becomes, if he goes to the Chargers at pick number, he's a 5, what is the strategy now for the Titans at 7? Is there a high enough rated left tackle remaining that you take him there? Do you feel one of your other needs, or do you trade down? That's the question of, is there another tackle that's available that you think is worthy of the 7th overall pick? Like, is Olaf Ashnu or J.C. Latham or any of these other tackles that are graded as first-round tackles? Are they top 10 pick tackles? But if Joe Alt goes at 5 to the Chargers, well, that means that another receiver is there, a Brock Bowers is there. Do you go that route?
No, I'm trading down.
And that's also an option.
Yeah, I'm trading down because my thing is this: if Alt's not there, then obviously there are other left tackles there that I can potentially draft, but I don't want to draft those other guys at 7. So yeah, Neighbors may be there, Adunze may be there. Who want to come up and get them? I can stay here and pick one of them, but who want to come up and get them?
If you have a trade partner.
Exactly. Who wants to come up and get them? And I can move down and still get the left tackle that I need. Because there's no question, I need a left tackle.
Yeah.
A receiver is a luxury because I have receivers on my team. Now, one of them needs to prove itself, but the other two have proven themselves in this league. I have receivers. That would be a luxury pick if I got them at 7. Who wants to come up and get their receiver? But you know what you got to give up to get up to this number 7 spot. So if I'm the Titans and Alt's not there, either you take the tackle you had rated right behind Alt at 7 and say, hey, listen, this was our contingency plan. If he wasn't there, we're going to take this guy, but we're staying at 7. Mm-hmm. Either you can do that or you move back far enough where you still can get your tackle if you want it, or you can get a receiver that you want. Mm-hmm. But you're gaining picks because you're moving back a few spots.
Opie has a question for Willie.
Ooh.
Says, Willie, give your thoughts on the Devils-Rangers blind brawl last night. Interested in Laviolette's role in causing it. Laviolette the Potster?
If it's a good question. I didn't watch. I heard all about it, and I knew about the buildup because what happened. This goes back with some bad blood that happened the last time the Rangers and Devils, who are rivals to begin with, right? They hate each other and have for ever since the Devils came into the league in the early '80s. But and the Devils have always been that pesky little brother. The Rangers are the original 6, and they've got a huge fan base. And the Devils like, oh, this is your little New Jersey operation over here. What are you guys doing, you know? But the Devils have won cups, right? And they've beaten the Rangers in some big series. In '94, the Rangers beat the Devils in a dramatic Eastern Conference final, finally won the Stanley Cup for the first time since, I forget when, the last 1940s or something like that. So there's a great history there. But what happened the last time they played is this guy, Rempe, big 6'5", 6'6" giant, came in. He was fighting people. He was hitting people. He's a Laviolette kind of guy. Laviolette loves energy like that.
He was a goon.
Kind of a goon who can play just well enough in today's NHL to, stay out on the ice and help you enough. But he was definitely stirring the pot. So it's one thing to fight a guy. It's another thing. He had a cheap shot, bad hit, knocked a guy out of the game who was not a fighter. Mm-hmm. And then the fighter for the Devils, they took issue. He wouldn't fight. So the Devils were like, next time we play, Rempe, you're going to answer for this. We're going to go. We're going to deliver our statement. And so what happened? It was the very first play of the game. And we had a melee.
Everybody
a little bit of old school. They're trying to weed that out. It doesn't happen as much as it used to. Terry Christmas got story after story about his era in the 70s.
Bet.
Oh, my goodness. There was stuff like that all the time.
We walked into the arena, we started fighting, and then we grabbed a cigarette.
It's crazy. So that was a little old school.
It was wild. It was wild to see. All right, it is, I think, one of the best betting weekends of the sports calendar. Final Four on both the men's and the women's side. Our friend Allie Melnicki will join us coming up next, giving her best bets of the week. And we'll do that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. It is the Caroline and Willy Bowl this weekend. So tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as Vanderbilt baseball takes on LSU.
Down in the Bayou.
Down in Baton Rouge with the pregame at 5:45 p.m. and first pitch at 6. Vanderbilt baseball brought to you by Smoky Mountain Tops, your countertop experts. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Big game for the Predators tonight. Blues at Preds. Joining us now to give us her best bets of the weekend is our friend Allie Melnicki from Zen Sports. Allie, we've got a Preds game tonight, but I'm going to look ahead to the final 4 games this weekend, both on the men's and women's side. Alabama taking on UConn. I know we got a lot of Crimson Tide fans here in our market, but I don't know who can beat UConn. Who you taking in that matchup?
I think the safe bet is to go with the over. It's sitting at 161.5 right now. These are teams that love to score. They put up big points. I know that's a very high number, but I could easily see both teams getting in the 80s, maybe even the 90s. 11 points is a lot of points to lay with UConn over Alabama, but I think the safe bet is to take the over.
I would agree with you. I know at least on the Alabama side, sometimes they're allergic to defense every once in a while.
They like the math. Just get those shots up. Shoot those threes.
Lob up a 3 and hope for the best. Looking at the women's side, I know projecting in the Final Four of who is ultimately going to win a championship, it could go any which way. But it seems like South Carolina could be as safe of a bet to win the national championship as any. Who are you thinking on the women's side of things?
I mean, I'm going to ride the Caitlin Clark train. We haven't seen a player like her in years. That was an electric game the other night against LSU. So I know Iowa going up against South Carolina maybe will be a little bit tough on Iowa's end, but I think I'm going to ride Caitlin Clark. She's playing phenomenal. She put up, 40-something points the other day over LSU. I'm going to go with Iowa.
You bring up the LSU-Iowa game. It was released 12.3 million viewers. It shattered the records for the most watched women's college basketball game of all time. I don't know if this is a prop bet on the Zen Sportsbook app or not, but if you had to bet more viewers or fewer viewers for a potential Iowa and South Carolina national championship, what would you take? Over or under 12.3 million?
Over for sure. I think everyone's going to want to tune in to see if Caitlin Clark can finally take down that net and get herself a championship. I know it's a very big number, but I'll definitely be tuning in. And I do think, even though Angel Reese won't be there with that rivalry, I think it would surpass that number.
Always must-see TV.
We're talking with Allie Melnicki, Zen Sports. Now, Allie, now that Joel Embiid has come back, has the odds for Philadelphia, the 76ers, have they changed in regards to them making it to the NBA Finals?
Not too much. We still don't know how healthy Embiid is. He does have a very big injury history. I would be surprised if they get all the way there. Also, he did just come back, so it's going to take him some time to get back into his groove. I just think that the Celtics in that are just and the Thunder, if you look at those two, some of the best teams in the league, and put in the Nuggets, the defending champions, I think it's going to be tough to beat any of those 3 teams. So I would rather back one of those 3.
Now, is all the money going on the Nuggets to repeat as champions this year?
Mostly at the beginning of the year, but people are jumping on the Boston Celtics because they just have looked invincible as of late. I mean, behind Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis, that's just a crazy good team. So we've been seeing a lot of action coming in on the Celtics as of late. And some people like the dark horses. They're looking at the Knicks to make some noise. I know there's a lot of Knicks fans that travel out of New York, so that's another dark horse people have been looking at.
Yeah, that Boston team, they're just loaded from top to bottom. They do, to me, they do have the best team, when you're talking about starting 5 and then them going to their bench. So I can see why they would be the favorites considering how they've been playing.
Yeah, for sure. They're just been phenomenal. But, Nuggets are defending champs. They have the same makeup with, obviously, Jokic and Murray, Porter. So it's going to be hard to discount them to repeat.
Allie, I'm keeping an eye on the Mets-Tigers game right now, 3-3 in the 9th. The Mets working on an 0-162 season right now. What are the odds that they could actually win a game at some point anytime? Are you a Mets fan? I'm a Mets fan. I don't know. I know you're a Giants, but are you Yankees or Mets?
I'm actually a Boston Red Sox fan. I know that goes against.
Okay, so you're a little crossed up.
Fan, so.
The Sox are playing well, huh?
Yeah, 5-2. I know we just played the A's, so I don't know how much that speaks those wins, but I don't know if that team will have more than a handful of wins this year.
They're also not going to have a handful of fans. They are now announcing that they're going to play in Sacramento for the next 3 years, that's like a real life major league situation.
Yeah, Oakland is tough. They lost their Raiders, and now they're about to lose their Athletics. So it's been tough up there for them.
Bummer.
T's and P's to the city of Oakland. Allie, appreciate you as always. Thanks for your insight, and we'll catch up with you next Thursday.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Allie Melnicki, our friend from Zen Sports. That is going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. reacting to Predators Blues tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pregame coverage at 6 p.m. Stillman and Company's up next.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.
Turn all of the lights on.